What's up, people? I'm Dustin Jones. I got Brandon Duplessis with me, Bears on Brand. We're with 4 Star Chicago Sports. Thanks for tuning in. If you're in here to another episode of the Bare Minimum, we do this every Thursday, usually late night, recap the Thursday night football game and preview a Bears game. So we have a lot of fun doing it. And if y'all are in here, I see a couple of you already. Leave some comments, ask some questions. If you got something you want to talk about, we'll chop it up. Bruhal already in here. Plank actually left us a message, Brandon, at 12 o'clock this afternoon saying he won't be up, but he'll catch it on replay. Bear down. So that's cool. And then breaking news, Bruce, of course. Always with us. We appreciate your support. Brandon, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good, man. How about you?
I'm good, dude. Just got off of work. Got home a little late, so just came right straight to here. But yeah, no, I'm good.
Big game for us, man.
What's that?
Big game for the Bears tonight.
Yeah, it is. Well, on Sunday, yeah. Big game for the Bears coming up.
No, I meant the game tonight, man.
Oh, yeah. The Thursday night game.
Yeah.
Minnesota catching the loss, guys. I was watching the game at work. I enjoyed it. It was a pretty well played game, mostly throughout, man. What stood out to you about that game? Did you get a chance to watch it?
Yeah. What stood out to me, man, is I didn't get a chance to watch the game. I did follow, man. I hate even saying this. I follow the game cast where I keep my phone open and kind of watch the play by play. But
Okay.
We've had just a plethora of injuries at the wide receiver position, man. And I've been kind of preaching over the course of the week, guys, that it really does change the entire dynamic of a football team, especially teams where that's probably their biggest threat. You know, I mean, teams like the Bears, teams like the Rams, where Nakua and Cup are really concerning when they're both on the field. That's kind of what makes them special, is like they have two number one wideouts. These two, but
Gives them an edge for sure.
Godwin and Evans, you're gonna see Baker Mayfield struggle, guys. It's gonna get ugly for sure, man.
The guy who had MVP vibes early on in the season, you
Well,
lose your guys, man.
And even a guy who like 3 weeks ago played this Atlanta team through like I think it was under 300 yards, but he threw like 4 touchdowns. I'm very curious to see how this game goes now. Remember this game? This was where Kirk Cousins threw 500 yards.
5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these guys were just going back and forth and back and forth. In overtime, It's not going to be like that for Baker this time around, man. I guarantee you that. But I guess my point is, man, the Rams with these two players are a very different football team.
And they were struggling without him, for sure. They were struggling without him.
And I want to me and Dustin save our receipts from time to time when it feels good to be right. And
you especially save those receipts.
This Minnesota team lost for the first time. They lost a game we didn't expect them to. So the loss to Detroit might mean a little more for Minnesota than
we talked about it last week.
Than we think it did, but like me and you kind of said it was going to happen. So
we talked about it on the Bare Minimum last week. It was one of your headline, deadline, or lifelines, that segment we did where we were talking about Minnesota in terms of like, are they going to maintain this level of play that they've had, or are they going to kind of start to digress and end up potentially being, we both picked them to be the worst team in the NFC North, I believe was the question and what we answered. And we also said that, I think a loss to the Lions was going to kind of maybe set those things in motion, and then they had a quick turnaround to a Thursday night game to a Rams team that has both of their best offensive players back on the field. I mean, maybe minus Calebwilliams, depending on what you value, but like,
what a season he's having, man.
Yeah, man, he is. But they walked into kind of a trap game, and it bit them in the ass, man. The Rams performed really well. I will say that that game ended on a very controversial call, man. There was a safety that the Rams were able to pull off. They pinned the Vikings deep on what needed to be the game-winning drive, or the game-tying drive for the Vikings, and then they sacked Sam Darnold in the end zone, but Dude who sacked him grabbed a shit ton of face mask. That's all he had in his hand and yanks Darnold's head. It was right. I don't know how the referees missed it, man, but they let it go, turn into a safety, 30-20, call it a day, man. But the Vikings now have 2 losses. They've lost 2 in a row. The Bears have 2 losses, and they're playing this Sunday, so they have a chance to come even in this division with the team that was on top just going into last Sunday's game. So that, like you said, Brandon,
Yeah, without ever, like the Bears are gaining ground on a bye week. That's a good thing.
Bruja says, is it me or do the Vikings give up a lot of points? No, it's not just you. I mean, you remember that Packers game that they got up big in and Jordan Love started throwing all over them and got right back in that game. The Vikings actually, I know that you mentioned fantasy, Bruja. I know that the Vikings give up the most points to receivers in fantasy. Their pass defense is not very good. That's not just
and it wasn't last year. And they drafted a lot of guys in the secondary. Unfortunately, guys, one of them literally passed away over the offseason.
the rookie they drafted, out of Oregon.
Yeah. And they have not improved, man, the secondary from last year.
Bruja says he had Cup on his bench. Stafford over Stroud. I mean, I would put Stroud over Stafford, but having Cup on your bench, that's questionable, Bruja. I wonder what your record is in your league, bro. Because I had Cup in every starting lineup I could have him in. It looked a little rough for a minute there, but he came through with some good points.
Yeah, he did a slow start.
Yeah, but he caught a touchdown and yeah, he had a good game. I mean, Puka Nacua had 107 yards receiving, bro. They came back and killed it.
That's the point. Those guys make a difference.
Oh, you said Cup in. My apologies, Bruja. Misread you there.
Those guys make a difference, man.
Hell yeah, 5-1.
So yeah, Dustin. What I took away from that game is you need your best playmakers on the field.
Yeah, and what we've seen with the Bears is that they've gotten lucky in matchups that they go into. I mean, we talked about that game. It was a good game. Rams won it. The Rams are now 3-4. So well within striking distance for that division. That division is going to
they play the team atop of their division next week.
Yeah, man. And it's going to be a 3-way race, it looks like right now. I mean, in terms of the standings in that NFC West. So that's a big win for the Rams. Huge loss for the Vikings, 2 in a row. Weakens them in this NFC North and gives the Bears an opening to, kind of keep climbing up in this division. So, but we've talked about how much luck the Bears have had in terms of when they roll into these games, injured players. When they played the Rams, no Nacua, no Cup, and they were able to exploit them for that. I mean, Matthew Stafford had some good plays and some bad plays in that game, but like you were saying, man, the game becomes a lot harder on your quarterback if you don't have two guys like Cup and Nacua out there. So the Bears caught a huge break on that.
Yeah, and like you said, the Bears have been doing this all year, man, and credit to them for not having to do anything to get luck on their fortune on their side because they were playing a Colts team without DeForest Buckner. They played a Panthers team without Dante Fowler, right? They've played
no, without Derek Brown. Derek Brown's on IR for them, and yeah.
Who else? They played another team. Well, they're
and
also
Shaq Leonard was out for the Panthers in that game. Yeah.
So and then. Guys, not only is
Joe Mixon went down in that Texans game. I mean, and then we got this week.
Jadeveon Clowney left the game. I believe both Xavier Legette and Adonai Mitchell, I don't know, AD Mitchell, both those players
all day Mitchell
left the game during the Bears. And then not only, guys, do you have possibly Jaden Daniels out of this game, but John Allen is done for the year.
John Allen went on IR last week or a week and a half ago, whatever that was. And Jaden, that was already huge. And then now you're talking about what was supposed to be like this really exciting matchup between the number 1 and number 2 picks, both quarterbacks, mid-season matchup where that got flexed. I mean, the luster is coming off of it a little bit because Daniels didn't participate today. And it's looking,
I don't think he's gonna play.
It's looking more and more like he's not gonna. I do want to shout out. Bruja, I didn't mean to call you out, man. I misread you. He's 5-1. Good shit. I'm 6-1 in 2 leagues and 5-2 in the other, so it's going pretty well for me. But yeah, it's
Bruja.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, they've had fortune on their side in regards to health, man. The Bears. Well, but now
they've
now
also
they're,
had some misfortune
yeah,
on their
now they're
side
start yeah now they're
to
starting to
catch up.
feel it.
Yeah, I mean Gordon and Brisker. I mean that was our thumbnail, man, because I think that's really important to this team. Still did not participate today. You're coming into Friday, and it's not looking good for them either. You know, like I mean, and Brisker becomes more concerning the more days go by that he's not practicing. I mean, we're talking about leading into that London game, a whole bye week, this whole week of preparation. I mean, if this guy can't get on the field, that scares me when you're talking about a concussion, Brandon, because it happens differently for everybody. It affects everybody differently, and they
And
can
and
linger.
and the more you have, and I keep telling this to people who keep kind of, man, I don't know if you remember this on the last week of bare minimum. I said, well, before the Jacksonville game 2 weeks ago, I said people are kind of brushing this off. This injury, like it's a next man up mentality. You're
Which you
missing
need
a
to
lot.
have, but
These
also,
are
yeah, it's concerning.
these are two playmakers, these two guys. But guys, it seems to me like the more concussions a person has, the longer it takes to recover from, the more weeks they're out, right? This is just,
And you were pointing out that Brisker missed some games last year with a concussion too.
I think three. I believe three, man. And this is his third now.
It's
In,
his third week. This is going to be his third week. Yeah, I mean, it was after
and
that
and
Panthers
and
game.
this is his third concussion. So
Yeah.
does this take 4 weeks? You just don't know, man.
Does it start to have longer term effects? I mean, those are the things like you have to think about them when it comes to these concussions.
Well, yeah,
Head injuries are very serious, and
last year, the one that kept him out for 3 weeks, man. I remember him being out for a substantial time, and I remember him saying like he'll feel kind of good, and then he'll get into kind of some action. He'll get on the field
then
and
the
play a little
symptoms
bit.
come back. Yeah,
Yeah, and then he starts feeling weird. So like, I just remember he was having issues getting back to normal, man. So this
yeah,
doesn't seem right. We had this conversation with a friend, guys, in a text. I said, I'll bet you Brisker's not back after the bye week. This is kind of becoming a trend for Jaquan Brisker, man, which is a very bad thing because these are the players that retires really, really young. Guys like this.
yeah. And we don't. I don't. Well, I don't hope that for him, and I hope he can come back. But you see, guys, just this season, within the last few weeks, you've seen guys end up with these concussions, and they get out of protocol within that next week. Malik Neighbors, I believe, missed 2 games. He went out the one game and missed 2 games with it. It like I said, it affects every.
Two is going on like week 4.
Tua's supposed to be back this week, from what I've read. But yeah, I mean, and you hope these guys come and play. You want them to be able to go out there and play. The game is better when they play. The Bears' defense is better when Jaquan Brisker plays, for sure. He's a really, really good, strong safety. So it's concerning to me going into a game against this Commanders offense where, Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker, if they don't play, I just keep thinking back to when Gordon went out in that Jacksonville game and how the Jags just were able to move down the field a lot easier after that happened. They were completing passes and they were moving down the field on the Bears, man.
Yeah, because realistically, man, of all the pieces you could like, we were short Tyreek Stevenson, Brisker. It was that Gordon thing. It's always going to be that Gordon injury that kills this team, man, because that is that. I mean, Ryan or Matt Eberflus will say it himself. That nickel position is probably one of the three most important positions on this defense.
Yeah, man. So, you hope that they can get in some practice tomorrow. And if they don't, I'm not counting on them playing. I won't count on Jaden Daniels playing if he doesn't get in at least a limited participation tomorrow in practice. I always look at this Friday as kind of and now obviously there's outliers, but I always look at this Friday before a game as like the end all be all for these injured players if they're gonna play. And I mean, the odds are very low that they will play if they don't get in any participation tomorrow. So, I mean, Tyreek Stevenson has been participating on a limited basis. So that's one guy we didn't have in that Jags game that will be a huge deal to have back. Tyreek Stevenson is a great cornerback league as far as I'm concerned, and the Bears were missing him.
Well,
The Bears were missing him.
he's another playmaker. He makes plays, man.
He can force turnovers, and he has
I will say
probably the hardest
this,
job in his defense.
in defense to the guys that did come in, Blackwell took the ball away. So, I mean, as long as you're not losing that aspect of your defense, man, you got to keep taking the ball away at a high rate.
Yeah, Blackwell will play.
When you play that bend don't break defense, but you don't take the ball away, you're in trouble. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
the
because eventually you just break.
yeah.
Yeah, and will play in the stead of Gordon if Gordon doesn't play, and Hicks will obviously be out there again for Brisker. So I mean, those two performed admirably in their roles in that game against Jacksonville. They did. So like you have a decent feeling about it, but it's just obviously you would like it if you're the guys who are the better players, the guys who are starters for a reason, were in this game because it is an important game for the Bears, Brandon. It's an NFC matchup with a team that has a 5-2 record, right? Like this is going to be an important game for
Well,
the Bears to win.
and and something. This is my firm belief, man. I heard Kyle said it on their Wednesday night show. He said it on the House Hall Hangover last week. He said, "Please let the losses come now. Please
The
let the wins come.
loses.
Please let the wins. Hey Liz, please let the wins come against the NFC North." Now I agree with that. It's most important you win your division, but
What up, Liz?
if you can
Fair
head
enough.
into that divisional stretch at 7-2, because you can beat these three not so good football teams. You know what I mean? If you can go in that divisional stretch 7-2,
That's a
you stand
huge advantage.
you stand a
That's a
much
huge
better
advantage.
chance. You stand a much better chance of getting to the playoffs. I firmly
Yeah,
believe. I believe these next three games for the Bears are all kind of must-win games for their
and
playoff hope.
there's a big difference between 5-2 and 4-3 in this NFC North, man. A huge fucking difference. This and they have those playoff predictors. You know, if you go to this record, your percentage is 78%. You go to this one, it's 38%. It's that kind of swing for the Bears in this game, and for the Commanders a little less because they haven't had their bye yet. They're at 5-2. But I mean, the Bears really need to keep pace with this Vikings team, this Lions team, and this Packers team. These are really good teams that I don't I don't see them losing more games than they win. And you have to keep winning the games that you should win. And
Well, yeah,
when
and
it
I forget who it was. It might have been Bruja. I forget somebody or somebody said in our chat, man. Every team, or I think it was Darius actually. Every team has a weak point in their schedule, and you got to take advantage of it. And it's kind of fortune and misfortune for the Bears that it all happens at once. Bears need to take advantage of this because,
the stretch
guys,
is huge, yeah.
as of today, they have the hardest remaining schedule in the NFL. They got to win these next three football games because that gives you a little bit of space to lose, a little bit of leeway to lose when you're in that divisional. You don't have to go 5-1 in that divisional stretch if you go into it 7-2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. At that point, you only need 3 more wins,
And
out of your
you're
last.
playing the Seahawks, and you want to have the expectation is to beat that team. But also, man, I want to say this: the reason this schedule did work out perfectly for the Bears and why Kyle, I think it's important that the Bears are winning these games is because the Bears are still figuring it out, and they're still week by week fine tuning and getting rid of trying to lessen their mistakes, and they're trying to develop players as well as progress the offense week by week. And you want to be doing that against bad football teams you can still beat. And
Yeah, working
you
out the
don't
kinks while you're still winning.
you don't want to be doing that against the best teams in football.
Yeah,
That's
that's a huge advantage. Now
so I
going in.
believe firmly if the Bears win these next three games, it makes them a better football team when they play the Packers in week 11 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean the Packers got the Jaguars this week, so I don't see the Packers losing that game. And the Lions got the Titans. The Lions got the Titans, man. So I mean, like the Titans are a bad team. The Jaguars are a bad team. Those are you're. I would bet. I'm gonna bet a good amount of money that the Lions and Packers win those games. So now the Bears have to win to keep pace. And they are catching a break. Which Jaden Daniels has been phenomenal this year. This is a guy that I would have loved to watch play this game, to be honest. The back and forth between Caleb and Jaden Daniels, that was super intriguing, the potential for that. Mariota's a guy who's had success against the Bears, different iterations of the Bears, the Vic Fangio Bears defense, and Eberflus in 2022 when he had no players to run his defense, really. Like, it wasn't, we know that defense was bad. So I think this is a different Bears defense that Mariota's going against. So I'm not going to put too much faith in that statistic for Mariota. This Bears defense gets turnovers and they put pressure on the quarterback, Brandon, like you were saying. So I think Mariota, if he plays, is we're definitely better off playing against Mariota than Jaden Daniels in this game, man. It's disappointing, but at the same time, it's a little encouraging because the Bears are catching another break here and they got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, guys, and we will see how those injuries affect them on Sunday. I do still think they will. I still think they're a better team than Washington, even missing those two players.
Okay. And I tend to agree with you, man. I tend to agree with you. And the Bears going into this week seem to be about their business. Did you watch any of the press conferences?
I did. I shared one on our Facebook group too. The one the day where they did
Caleb and DJ?
Eberflus, Caleb, DJ back to back to back.
Yeah, man. What stood out to you about that? Because I got a couple notes that I took from that, man, in terms of like what these guys are saying, what kind of confidence they're operating with, and what they're expecting.
Well, I think what's good, man, is like I said, you watch the head coach come out and talk before the two players did, and the two players kind of just they kind of just vomit whatever their head coach says. I guess that's good. You know what I mean, man? Like, it's clear the message is the same from top to bottom through this locker room, because Matt Eberflus and Caleb Williams talked mostly about getting better. Like, you're not there yet. That's Caleb just kept getting back to.
DJ Moore reiterated some of that too.
And there's things we just got to be better at. Like, we got to be better at. So it's like this is what I'm saying, man. Their mentality is they're going to use this game to try to fix some of the things that they feel they did wrong last week, and they're still winning football games while they're doing that. So,
yeah, man. When your team is 4-2 and you hear them focusing on what they can get better at, and when your rookie quarterback, number 1 overall pick, is doing that, it's just very encouraging, man. Some things that stood out to me, man, that Caleb said. I mean, they asked him about the multiple meetings, the offensive players.
He talked a lot about Kingsbury too, man. A lot.
I mean, they're being asked about it. Eberflus and Caleb were both asked about it. I mean, and obviously there's a connection there between Caleb and Cliff Kingsbury. So, I mean, I get it's pertinent. They both have respect for Kingsbury and his offense. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, I think Caleb wants to rip his throat out, to be honest. But I mean, what Caleb has been focused on, in those meetings is getting the offense focused on what he likes and getting out what he didn't like. And he kept saying staying in the flow of the offense. That's been the biggest key. And then they asked DJ Moore about what he meant by that, because he mentioned it multiple times. And DJ Moore was like, just it's more about not having negative plays. They were having like pre-snap penalties that were putting them behind the sticks, negative plays on offense where you were losing yards when you ran the football. The Bears have really done a good job of eliminating those things, and it's good to hear that that's what they're focused on. You know what I'm saying? And DJ Moore still remembers his 230-yard game against the Commanders last year. That stood out to me.
You don't forget 230.
Yeah.
And then Caleb Williams did say a little bit more that stuff that we kind of came up in the headlines a few weeks ago with them talking to Waldron about what they like and what.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Caleb said they he thinks the biggest thing, even over the bye week, the biggest thing has been like the coach's ability to listen and the player's ability to have leadership. I was like, huh. Still kind of sounds like the players are running this football team.
There needs to be some kind of mix of that. I mean, it depends on the players you have. This Bears team has a lot of high character guys, man. Guys that don't want to look bad, guys that want to perform well, and they understand that they need each other to do it. That's a huge thing, man. It's not like on this team. These receivers are. I mean, DJ Moore brought up the body language thing again. He said, my body language is still the same as it was in the losses. It's just, you guys aren't paying attention to it because we're winning. I mean, like, I never bought into that myself. It's just good to hear that he don't give a shit. He never did, and I don't think there was ever anything, but obviously a quarterback and a receiver, a rookie quarterback, they got to get to know each other. And it's going to take some time.
And there's a difference in being frustrated for not getting the ball and being frustrated because things aren't working. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, DJ talked about that. They asked him about Caleb asserting himself, the whole bossy thing that he said. And, he just said he had to grow to get the confidence to tell people where they needed to be and what to do. And like Caleb is starting to grow into that role. But at the same time, DJ Moore has like this very big bro vibe when it comes to Caleb. Like, you're not there yet. He said that actually in his like, he ain't there yet, like in terms of dictating the offense to the receivers. Like, this is where I want you to be. This is how I want you to run that route. A reporter actually asked, like, has he done like the Peyton Manning thing where Peyton Manning runs the route to show the receivers what he wants it to look like? And DJ was like, he tried, but slow your roll, my boy, is what he said. So it's like DJ kind of keeps him in his place a little bit, but at the same time, you can see him fostering his growth. So it's like this good combination of keeping him humble, but also recognizing what he is capable of and giving him confidence to step into that role, man, which is a cool thing to see.
Yeah, that's another kind of vibe you get when you watch these guys, especially doing their interviews back to back. Is these guys are like, it was the same last year too, man. It's something I think Eberflus brings to this culture is they're all like a family, man. They really do kind of remind you that, like you said, like literally and figuratively when it comes to like that big brother role. It's like these guys just kind of like, I don't know, when you listen to their, because they have Jalen Johnson and DJ Moore on the radio once a week. They'll have Cole coming on there every once in a while too, and it's like it's the one thing they just preach is making sure you have a working internal relationship, like within the locker room and on the practice field with these guys, as well as an on the field relationship when it comes to playing football. And it seems to be something that is working for Matt Eberflus.
Yeah, man, and it's a strength of Matt Eberflus, so he needs to lean into it. That's the way I feel. Bruhal says he forgot that DJ went over 200 yards in the 3 touchdowns. Doesn't think they improved their secondary much.
No, I've been saying all week, man, because people are asking me with fantasy if there's a Bears player that's going to go off this week, it's going to be DJ Moore. I mean, in regards to their pass catchers.
Washington's opponents' pass yards per game is 197 is what they're allowing.
Dude, at home it's like 121.
Yeah, that's improved in terms, like last year they could be thrown on easily. That's one thing that's actually kind of
but they also
impressed me about that Commanders team. Sorry, they've improved really well against the pass. I didn't realize it was that much though. That
they've also had some, man. I mean, there was a few quarters where Lamar Jackson 2 weeks ago was just kind of picking that team apart.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Lamar Jackson, Caleb Williams. I mean, Lamar Jackson is a 2-time MVP. He's a hell of a quarterback. You hope Caleb Williams can make the throws that he needs to make.
Well, Lamar Jackson's pass catchers are nowhere near the caliber.
That's a good point as well. I hope they don't have Caleb come out. I just don't want to regress back to the first few weeks of the season where it's like, let's drop Caleb back and just pass all over these guys. Like, I don't want to put Caleb in that position. I hope they put him in a position where he can make the smart throws, the quick throws, get the ball out fast, and a couple big throws that in spots where you need it. The run game needs to be established.
The loss of John Allen, you're thinking about coming out of the gates trying to run the ball down the throat of this team, man, right? Deron Payne's still a very effective player, but I mean, like, guys, imagine a real big wall that just lost a whole section.
Yeah, and in terms of
he's one of the better tackles in football, man. He doesn't get enough attention.
No, yeah, he is. It's a huge loss for them, man. And they're allowing 4.9 yards per rush. That's 27th in the league. So, like, that is a place they can be exploited.
And you
Um,
want to try to win. What I think is going to be important in this game, man, is time of possession. I think as long as your offense, man, we can't be going out there early in this game and doing this 3-and-out thing. That's still one thing, guys. As much as the Bears have
the
improved,
offense starts to slow. Yeah, yeah.
they got to stop doing that, man. I want to see like a touchdown on the first drive. That was one thing the Bears were good at over the last few seasons prior to this one.
Well, they had that whole thing come out about the game not being the first drive or two of the game not being scripted. All the Bears players kind of shot that down. I mean, it really depends on coaching. From what Cole Kmet said, like there's certain coaches that'll have it scripted through the first half, and there's other coaches that don't script at all. So, but they did go to scripting in this last game, and it didn't really against the Jaguars, and they started out very slow, multiple 3-and-outs, like you said. So I don't know that it made a difference. It's really going to come down to can the
Yeah,
Bears.
that was interesting too, man. Because a lot of fans' take on that was like, it's crazy to think they weren't scripting games. Like, and I'm so glad they came out and scripted this one. Like, but
It didn't do shit.
did it do anything?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I
I
mean,
think they brought the wrong script. I don't know.
uh, if they're hopefully the script is
Man,
better this
this
Sunday.
is week 11, man.
I mean, I don't particularly care as long as they're scoring points, man. I just think I think that this Bears offense hums a lot better when DeAndre Swift is involved early and often, man. DeAndre Swift to me is the key to this offense. I continue to say it. If he's involved in that short passing game, that he can, because he's always like one move away from turning it into a
Right, and
huge play,
that's what I was thinking about it. I said we had a question in the fantasy show I was helping out with where it was like a second round pick and Andrew Swift for Saquon Barkley. That was the trade. So we got really into like Swift's expectation for the remainder of the season. And I said
I
what you
wouldn't
just
do
said.
that.
I said they're they're gonna have to rely upon like Swift's gonna have to have good games for this team to have winning game. This offense to have winning games. But I also thought I said on the show, and I stopped I caught myself before. I was like, Swift is definitely the best play. Like I said, playmaker, but then I was like, in the backfield. I followed that up real quick. I was like, best playmaker in the backfield. And then after the show ended, man, like I think I was like at work the next day. I started thinking to myself, is Swift probably not
Just
the
in
best?
general,
Is he probably not
just
the best playmaker on the Bears? Because I mean, as good
just
as
in
these
general,
receivers
yeah,
are,
yeah,
I
yeah. No,
still think he's the of all the players on this Bears team, he's the one that I think is the closest to breaking out. Like you just
he's a
said,
game breaker.
breaking
Yeah, he
out
can break open a game
that
with one
45-yard
one
run
juke.
or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah. So I mean, the more they get the ball in his hands, the better. The key is to make sure you get it in his hands in the open field. If the Bears can do that this Sunday, obviously that's going to play a huge role in whether or not they can win this game. Because DeAndre Swift, he's just a playmaker that once he gets out on the outside, he's going to beat guys to the edge, and he's going to make guys miss too.
and
So
if he gets underneath you inside, man, like when he kind of makes that chip block and then
sneaks out,
gets
yeah.
just past the line, turns around and gets Caleb out of trouble. Anytime that pass is completed, I feel like Swift goes for 30 plus.
Okay, so then like you said getting Caleb out of trouble. Do you see Caleb being in trouble in this game? Like do you see
No,
him the Redskins,
I
the
just meant,
Commanders
man,
getting pressure?
I think Swift on that play is kind of intentionally.
I know what you meant. I'm just asking, do you foresee Caleb, being under pressure in this game coming this Sunday?
Not like
I
a
agree, Brujo.
not a substantial amount, no, but I do also believe this, man. Like we've talked about, Shane Waldron gets pretty aggressive when things start working against the team, and like the play where Caleb had come down the seam after the two pumps. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes Waldron is scheming it so that they're letting somebody in. You know what I mean? Like that naked protection where it's like
Yeah,
get,
use their
get these
aggressiveness against them.
get these players in the backfield. So I feel like if Waldron's able to do that a few times to any team, that's going to kind of keep them on their heels.
Yeah, for sure. And Swift needs to be a big part of that because he is the yards after catch guy on this team, and if he can turn an easy Caleb, 5-yard pass to a 45-yard play.
Right. So if you're a team who's like Washington, who's not super talented in pass rushing, man, you're gonna have, if you're not getting home quick, you're gonna have to get off that real fast. You know what I mean? Like if your intention is to pressure Caleb, and it ain't working early, you're gonna have to find a plan B. Because the one thing, guys, that I just keep preaching on this show, Dustin knows it is. This is just too many people. There's too many people to worry about. So if you're not getting home to Caleb and Moore and Allen and Nadunze and Komet and Swift, these guys are getting behind you, you're in trouble. So it's so awesome to say this about a Bears team, man. Like
it's not normal.
We have that threat. Like if you can't manage that, you're fucked.
For sure. And it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to manage, and the Bears do need to play to that strength. They just got to be careful about getting too enamored with it that they put Caleb in precarious positions. The offensive line, and I mean, they mentioned it yesterday, Sean and Kyle on their show, their preview show. The offensive line we've seen a couple good weeks in a row, but there is to give up more pressure. And if the Commanders come out blitzing, are the Bears going to handle that? I just think you don't want to keep putting Caleb back there to find out. I mean, obviously you got to take some shots downfield, but I think you come out to start this game with a lot of quick passes, get the ball out of his hands fast.
I will say this though, man, in the last 14 quarters he's played, he's like top 3 in the league against the blitz. So that's another thing teams are finding, like, if you do too much,
what we foresaw going into this season, he was going to help this offensive line with his ability in the pocket.
Defenses, they're like, man, if we do too much of this, Caleb just kind of takes advantage of us. It's like I said, man. So these are the things, man, where like we're talking about. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go into a little bit off course here because we're talking about. I hear people saying, like, when it comes to the Packers and the Lions and the Vikings, or even games like this Washington game, if Daniels played, Kyle said Caleb's going to have those games. The Bears going to lose some of these. Like, I'm worried about this Washington game. This team is different because, man, it's because Caleb Williams. It's different.
It's because Caleb Williams.
I don't
get a shirt that says that. It's because Caleb Williams.
I don't expect them to do the things that Bears fans expect, that we've always expected. You know what I mean? Like, I think they come out in these next 3 weeks, they beat up these teams pretty handedly. I really do believe that. And I think when, man, I mean, I don't think Washington's the best of the 5 that you're playing in this stretch here in a row
by far
of Carolina, Jacksonville, Arizona, New England.
Arizona's 3-4 too, and right in that NFC West. That win they had on Monday against the Chargers was impressive to me. I fully expected the Chargers to win that game, so that stood out to me. And I mean, obviously, that's a conversation for another day. Bruhaw says the O-line can fall apart quickly. Now, I do see that there is a possibility for that, but I also want to say, man, the amount of improvement that I've seen from this offensive line from the first 3 weeks to the last 3 weeks, it's very impressive. Coleman Shelton is becoming a player you can count on. I mean, and Brandon, you're going to go to the Nate Davis thing, and not having him in the lineup in this lineup is a huge deal.
This week is the most depth the Bears have ever had available at this position, at these positions too. I believe Ryan Bates is back, man. Karan is definitely ready to go. You're talking about 3 full weeks of practice now. Bill Murray's still there. I believe Larry Borum is now healthy again, isn't he?
So, well, they opened his window to return. I don't know that, and I don't know about Bates being back either. To be honest, I haven't read anything on it.
I think he is, man, because he's not on any injury reports, and he's no longer on IR.
Yeah, for sure. This was the window for him to get back, and I get what you're saying. My whole thing though is, like, you've had a good couple of consistent weeks with this lineup they have shown that guys can step in and perform well with Caddyshack, and that's a good feeling. But I do want to see these guys stay healthy and stay out there. I
Oh
don't want
no,
to see
me
Tevin
too.
Jenkins going down,
Me too.
because
But
the
yeah,
more consistency they get together, the better they will continue to get week to week. I don't know how good they're going to get. I think they can just be average, and I think that's good enough. But I do not see them regressing back to allowing the amount of pressure they allowed in those first 3 weeks. And Brandon, you pointed out that a couple of teams they played are really good at that, and they're showing that consistently in games. So
yeah,
I
they're
think
both
the
in the top.
Bears
I
are going
believe
to
they're
be
both.
okay at the offensive line.
I believe Tennessee and Houston are now both in the top 10 for pressure. For yards allowed, they're 1 and 2 in the league. But I think for pressure, they're both top 10. And
Those are two tough teams to handle, and the
it's
Bears
two
look
tough
really
teams
bad. I don't
for a
see them
rookie.
going back to
It's
that point.
two tough teams for a rookie quarterback to deal with, man, for sure. Like, oh,
Drew
as
Hall said, "Fair enough." I appreciate that.
those being your two first games of your career, you know what I mean? Like Caleb wasn't ready for that, man. And man, that might be the worst. That Titans team might be the worst team for a rookie quarterback to play in the first game of his career, because those two guys that are
Jeffrey
so
Simmons,
that are
yeah,
so damn close to Sweat and Simmons, they're
yeah,
the closest players to you, and
Devondre Sweat.
you've probably even not even in college football, you've probably never even seen two guys that large move that fucking fast, man. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, it was a tough matchup to start, especially with the uh the interior of the O line not being secured. I feel pretty confident right now. I feel confident enough in Shelton, Pryor, and Jenkins. I think they can hold up against some solid competition. So, and I think it only gets better the more they get to play together. So, um, I,
I think
I
I think this team plays better, man. I don't. These two things go hand in hand, but I think one of them normally comes after the other. But I think it's kind of working the other way around. Like, I think when a team is winning, they're having fun. But I think the Bears start to win when they start to have fun. You know what I mean? When they start to remember this is still a game, man. It's not just their job; it's a game. Because like when they started like high
Well,
fiving
winning
each
is
other.
fun, Brandon. So I mean,
Yeah,
it's kind of a loaded statement. I mean, when teams are winning, they're happy. You saw Justin Jefferson
well,
tonight
no, and
chucking his
winning
helmet
winning
multiple
winning
times. He's
football games.
pissed.
I mean, winning games is the goal, man. But I also believe that like when this offensive line, when this unit started to win against the unit across from them, even in games like the Colts where they didn't win the game, you could tell they were having a lot more fun doing it, man. Like not getting just destroyed
Oh,
by the
and
group.
and think about the pressure that Caleb Williams and this offense felt coming into this season. Just him being Caleb Williams is the savior of this
Think about the
Bears
pressure,
franchise.
Caleb Williams. Think about the pressure. What you just said,
Yeah,
that statement. Think about what
yeah,
the offensive
that's
line on this team thinks about. Like it's your
protecting the
job to
savior
protect.
of this
Yeah,
franchise. I mean,
yeah.
but there was expectations that this offense would just be like, mix it all together and it's just going to work. And I mean, those were high expectations, coming into this season. Remember going back to Hard Knocks and all the training camp highlights and all that. I mean, it was a lot of pressure. So once they start performing and actually hitting on those cylinders that you're talking about, Brandon, where their performance is meeting up with the expectations, that's got to feel fucking great to those guys as players.
Well,
It's got to
yeah,
feel great.
and
Look at
so
how it feels to us as fans.
well, and then you can look back at this, man, because you still have the guys out there that are saying the Bears just simply haven't beaten anybody because they lost to the Houston Texans. But let me ask you this, man. When the Bears were going into that game, all four of us here on the Four Star Chicago Sports a podcast, and most people I know projected the Bears to lose that game, that Houston game, in the second week of the season. What would your projection be on that game if they played next week?
If it's in Houston, I'm still taking Houston.
What if it's in Chicago?
I might take the Bears.
You
I
wouldn't have
might
done
take the
that in
Bears.
week. You wouldn't have done that in week two, even in Chicago.
Yeah, that's worth pointing out. But yeah, I mean, Houston is a good team. Houston is a good team. But here's the thing, the Houston just lost to Green Bay at Lambeau, and like I expect the Bears to compete with the Packers for a spot in the playoffs. So the Bears got to be able to do the same damn thing if they're playing at that level. I do want to point out, Bruja said something funny here. He has Bears PTSD when it comes to the O-line. There's so many different types of PTSD to go around with this Bears franchise's history, man. So I feel you on that. It's with the O-line, it's with the quarterback, it's with the head coach, it's with the general manager. There's a lot of PTSD to go around. We all feel it.
It's with the field goal kicker now.
Yeah, man. Like
after 2018, we're all afraid of that now. Every time a fucking field goal goes up, we got a double doink it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been alive since 1986. I've never seen a Bears championship. I've seen them in the Super Bowl. So I mean, like, and there's a lot of bad in between. So like, that's worth pointing out as a Bears fan. The PTSD is real, and I mean, and also on the other side of it, getting past it is it feels huge. Like us moving past that as fans, and like you, because you were talking, Brandon, earlier about because Caleb Williams. So like I don't expect them to do to what they've done in the past. I was thinking when you were saying that, like that's a healthy outlook that Bruja and other guys with PTSD might have a harder time having that outlook and seeing the offensive line continue to hold up and seeing the rookie quarterback continue to progress through a season. Like these are things we have not seen as Bears fans.
And seeing like when you are talking about these three teams being the lesser of your opponents for the remainder of your schedule, like seeing a Bears team that you're like, man, this Bears team is good enough to beat these three teams, but we know the Bears, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. But imagine, Brandon, if you the way you're feeling is the way we're all supposed to be feeling, and then we actually do start to get to that point. Like it's just a crazy thing to think about as a Bears fan to me, because you're always waiting for the other shoe to fall off. But like we should, as Bears fans in one of the biggest markets in the country, you know, in terms of football or any sport, like we should have better expectations. We should have those expectations you're talking about, Brandon, and we deserve that. So hopefully this is a year where like this is changing. This PTSD Bruja's referring to.
Well, and at some point, the on paper's got to matter too, man. I mean, when Ryan Poles put this roster together, you know you have a top 10 defensive unit. When he put guys like Keenan Allen and drafted Rome, when he got traded for Allen, drafted Rome Odunze, signed DeAndre Swift. I mean, think about that. Traded for one, signed one, and drafted the other. I mean, he got talent in every way he could as a general manager, literally every way that he could. So
he was just like, check.
We're all saying this, like this team is better, like we're better than the Commanders on paper. Well, that's guys. I feel like this is the fucking team for. We finally have the team that, like, when they're better than that team,
like the on-field matches the on paper.
Yeah, they're gonna go. Yeah, right. When you're like they should be, they're gonna go do it. That's what I think this team has become.
And I'm just pointing out that that's a healthy outlook from you, and I don't know if all Bears fans share that outlook yet.
Oh no, definitely not. I don't think many do.
It's an interesting dynamic to discuss and think about.
When I tell people I think they're going to win the next three games, like what's excluding what happens when that schedule gets really tough, these next three games, like people are like, really? Like the reaction people is like no, they're bound. That'd be six in a row. They're bound to lose somewhere. It's like I think this is a different. I don't think this is that team you guys are thinking about. That Bears team that we know, even the good ones. You know, I mean, even our good Bears teams were never dominant. I think our best team was what was the best team we had? The Super Bowl team was what, 13-3? Yeah. 13-3. Is that the best record we've had in the last like 2 decades, man?
Yeah, that's a pretty damn good record to have. And I mean, that was a great season. That team
is. Yeah. But the Bears just have never really been that Super Bowl season. They were dominant, but they've never really, even though that their offense scared the crap out of me that 06 season, man. Like the inability of that offense to score, because it was like, man, the defense.
I kind of want to get you to pump your brakes a little bit in terms of comparing this team to that team. It's like that team was a really good football team. I hope that we have something that's on that level, and like you're pointing out, with an offense you can be more confident in.
Exactly.
But let's not get over our skis.
Exactly, because even that team, man. This is what I'm saying though. That team was good.
Glorious TVG says bear down and vote Trump. What's up, TVG? How you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Even that team, man. you knew the defense had to be good enough to win each
The,
game.
the defense had to win games,
Yeah,
and then like that's interesting because like DJ
we
Moore
don't
was
we
talking in his
don't
press.
have to do we don't have to do that anymore.
Well,
Like
and
it's
DJ Moore was talking about in his press conference how to start that season, the defense was holding up its end of the bargain and the offense wasn't. And it was important to the offense that they got up to a level, at least at that defensive level, that the way the defense was playing, or better than it. And if you put those two things
dude,
together, you can beat any team any Sunday, man. If the Bears off, like you were saying, the people that Ryan Poles targeted to make a top 10 offense and the defense that they put together to make it. If you can have a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense in this NFL, you're a fucking playoff team, man. If those two sides can hold up, that's
yeah,
huge.
yeah, man, for sure, for sure. Like I think they're playing really complimentary football for sure, man. Like that's just like you said that early in this season when they were looking bad. Is like Eberflus needs to make sure all his coaches are aware that this is the way this unit needs to play to complement this unit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. If we're in
always
a defensive battle, man, I don't need Caleb Williams dropping back 45 fucking times. My offense needs to look a little different in that type of game. And since we started talking about that, you've seen the complementary football happening where the special teams is leading to defensive advantage, which then
and
turns to an offensive
and
advantage in the red zone for the Bears. Like that type of football is a
and
lot of fun to watch and play.
it probably means more as much to others now that it did to me at the time. And I talked about on our house, maybe our first house all hangover, the speech that Kevin Byard gave in the game after week one. When the defense won that game, I mean, clearly there's no arguing the defense special teams won that game in Tennessee. Caleb did
Yeah,
enough
yeah, no
to
doubt.
not lose it, but he didn't win that game by any measure. So
And the offense was not complementary to that
no,
style of
and
game. And
Byard said it because Matt Eberflus was giving a big speech about effort and this and that, and like we didn't quit, and we said I got you. It was cool. It's like we said I got you. Like that guy said I got you to that guy. Nobody complained and nobody moped and
and
nobody
Byard
said
brought up that eventually it's going to be your turn
yeah,
to lift
yeah.
us
So
up.
Byers was aware enough to know like this, and this is coming from a guy who's new on this team. This is the coolest element of this. He's new to this defense, but he knows this defense is all continuity. You know what I mean? It's all the same pieces coming back. So he was literally like acknowledging that's going to take some fucking time, man. Like there's a lot of new stuff over there. You know what I mean? The rookie
Yeah.
quarterback, the new offensive coordinator, the pieces they've acquired in trades and signings and this and
Once
draft.
it starts
Hey, yeah,
clicking,
so he was basically like,
you
there's going to
guys
be
will lift
points
us up.
where you guys are bailing us out for
Yeah.
sure, man.
Yeah.
Like, and that's really cool to see if Byard.
And I do want to point this out before I get to a comment. If you notice, we're not gonna dive into who the Bears have played and make that a big thing. We have some very good vibes around this team. When you see the team communicating to the media, when you see the team, on the field together and how they respond to each other, and when you see, that, like you're saying, Brandon, when the offense is down, the defense picks them up, and then that's reciprocal. I feel really good about this football team. I don't give a shit who they played. Honestly, it
Well,
obviously matters, but you can only play who's in front of you, man. And this team is putting together three-phase football in a way that's impressive.
yeah,
To
because
me,
you even had
it's
that game
impressive.
where you even had that game with where I forget. I think it was maybe Carolina or maybe the Rams. I think it was the Rams. Yeah, it was the Rams where Tory Taylor's plays is what got the crowd the loudest. You know what I mean? So
And they
even
made huge impact in that game,
oh, I'm
in the
saying
Bears winning.
those were like the plays you walk away from that game remembering. I actually made sure I posted the last one that hits the field and rolls directly out of bounds at like the
Yeah.
4 yard line. Like those are the play. Like dude, if you rewatch the highlights to that game, that's when the crowd went nuts when Tory Taylor made those punts. That even like kind of swayed momentum for the Bears a few times. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and he
they're
was one guy I
they're
wanted to mention when you were going through the list of who Poles went and got this offseason, because he
yeah.
went and got that punter that has actually probably won you a game if you really look back at that game and how important those punts were that you're talking about, man. So I do just want to point out that I'm in with this team. I think they have potential to be a complete team. I don't think that they're a Super Bowl team, but I do see them contending for playoffs, and I'm here for that. And I want to I want to be as excited as I can be about it, and I'm not going to come down on, well, they played the Jaguars and the Panthers, so I don't know how good I think they are. I think this is a team that's good, and like you were saying earlier, Brandon, they still need to get better, and they know it, and they're finding ways to get better. So that's what's super encouraging. They're winning games while also figuring their shit out. That's huge. So I'm all in with this team,
Yeah,
guys.
that's why I said Ryan Poles cannot look back at the first 6 weeks of this season at 4-2 and think like this is not what this is. I expected something more. There's no way because
Yeah, no,
like
this is about where you're
he's
at. Yeah,
he's and we've had some guys we even some of the 4 stars who are responsible. Man, we've had a lot of people, Chicago Bears fans, have shit on Waldron at one point and shit on Eberflus at one point,
it was deserved,
and
man.
I
It was
assure you that
deserved.
Ryan Poles is thinking to himself, man, my coaching staff, I feel so proud of the fact that I kept Matt Eberflus here and that he and I brought Waldron in here because, like, these guys in that first 6 week stretch got together quick and they won while figuring it out. Like, that's, they did dump 2 games, but 4-2, well, Dustin, when you're figuring out that many new pieces while winning football games, I mean, you're doing a good job coaching. So if you guys want to figure out how to gauge what Eberflus and Waldron are doing for bringing for this football team,
Let
they're winning
me
football games.
Yeah, for sure. And let me put a pin in that because there's something you're saying that I do want to touch on. But Notorious TBG says we need Kyler back. We did discuss that earlier on in the show. Notorious. I mean, obviously, Kyler's a huge part of this defense. Brandon went as far as to say it's one of the top 3 most important positions to this defense. Kyler going out in that Jaguars game led to some really fast and good offensive production out of the Jags pretty quickly. So that's a concern for me too. And I don't know that if he don't practice tomorrow, he's definitely not playing. And that is concerning going into this game. We agree with you. Bruhal says Bayard is such an upgrade, and we've dived into that in the past in terms of what he brings in terms of a guy who can roam the field and have the back of a guy like Brisker who needs to play in the box. That's a huge addition for this Bears defense that wasn't talked about enough going into the season,
Well,
honestly.
and I think everybody's kind of like perception of Bayard when he was signed was like he's at the bottom. The guy was a playmaker through the early years of his career, and he's a little older. And we kind of all thought, man, as long as surrounded by the talent he's surrounded by, he's going to be above average. I mean, he's going to be good enough with the rest of these guys. He's going to be good enough. He's a playmaker, man. He's been
Yeah,
making plays.
yeah.
Byard has been just as effective as Brisker and Gordon and Stevenson and Johnson. He's made major impacts himself
And he will
over the
continue
entire
to.
career. So
He
like
will continue to on this
Byard
defense.
has been huge.
Yeah.
And another signing at a really good price, guys.
Yep,
Another
that's a
good
good
player.
contract. Notorious says Caleb needed a soft schedule at the start. Can you imagine if we had the Packers or Lions weeks 1 through 3? I feel like everybody would have had a little rust, but yeah, it's definitely better to have them at the back half of this schedule, as far as I'm concerned, to let this team get its legs under it, figure out who they are, and go into these games with clear intention on what they can and will do and what they want to do and what their strengths are, and they're figuring those things out. So yeah, I agree with you on that, man. We talked about that going into season 2. It was a huge advantage for this Bears team to have such a soft schedule, especially against bad secondaries, for our rookie quarterback to figure this shit out. I mean, it's playing out exactly as Brandon. That's crazy. You ever thought about like how this is playing out kind of exactly as we imagined it leading into this season in terms of the schedule and how easy it started out for the Bears? I mean, easy by NFL standards, but
Yeah, man, and this is what's kind of confused me, man, is like we had the Bears at 7-2.
yeah,
We did. We had them losing. We had them at 4-2 by the bye, and we had them at 7-2 by the time this divisional game. And now I feel like
yeah. I had them
everybody's
losing to the Rams and the Texans in the
and now I
first.
feel like everybody's kind of like, oh, you really think they win three in a row here and 6 altogether? Like, yeah, I do. I still believe that. I believe they've done enough to prove to me that they're the team I projected before the season. I mean, we went through the schedule. Man, me and you, Dustin, between 2 or 3 shows, did it probably 4 or 5 times, like
Yeah,
projecting this team's
yeah,
schedule.
yeah.
We had them at 7-2 every which way. I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know if the losses were always the same, but we had them at 7-2. And I'm after from what I've seen after my preseason projections, from what I've seen on the field, I feel even better about it. I really
I
do.
I just and so do I, man. And I just remember going through that Bears schedule when I first saw it and being like, I got to go find some more losses in
Yeah,
here.
thinking you're being
I'm
biased.
picking
Yeah.
too many wins for this Bear. But like I couldn't find the losses, man. The schedule was just set up so well. Bruhall says score 28 points to be competitive, 10-7, see what happens. Yeah, I'm kind of on board with you there. The Bears are averaging like 24.7 points per game right now. So they're and then that's obvious. It was 19 just a few weeks ago. So that's obviously increasing. Ant Mass
Yeah,
just joined us.
they had back-to-back 30-point weeks, right?
Yeah. So that brought up their average, obviously, an awful lot. Yeah, they scored 36 last
Yeah,
week.
guys, I don't think it was like this Bears team is. I think this offense is going to do this against bad teams. They're going to because Caleb, guys, you finally have a quarterback that's going to exploit bad defenses. Like Justin Fields, you never really could dictate when Justin Fields was going to have a good game. Like the best games Justin Fields ever had were not against the 32nd ranked secondaries. You know what I mean? Like when he did that to Washington last year, where he threw 4 touchdowns and 300 some yards, they were like 20th in the league. Their secondary was like it wasn't like worst in the league. And then he played the
Yeah, but their
Vikings.
secondary sucked for sure last year.
Then he played the Vikings, who had the worst secondary in the NFL twice, and I think he had one passing touchdown between the two games, man. So it's like at least you have a quarterback where at least there's some rhyme and reason
Yeah,
to it.
there's a
It's
baseline
like,
that we
hey,
know he's gonna be at.
he's
Yeah,
playing a shitty team. He's going to torch him. He's playing a really good defense. He's going to struggle a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it's not just at random like we had with Fields, man.
I just want to shout out Ant Mass. Ant Mass, please do me this favor because I keep thinking about this when I see your name. Is it Ant Mass? Because there's not two S's, and I keep saying Ant Mass because it just rolls off the tongue like that. But is it Ant Miss?
I've
Like
thought
Christmas? Huh?
I've thought this to myself as well, for
You
sure.
have? Okay, I'm glad I'm
Internal
bringing it up
thoughts.
there.
Well, I
Like
kept saying Aunt Moss,
Aunt
like
Mass, Aunt
like
Moss, or Aunt Miss, like Christmas. Like I don't know. It could go. Just give us the pronunciation in the chat,
because
please.
isn't Moss in the Spanish language
Thanks.
MAS?
I don't know, man. I don't know if I broke up or if you broke up, but I didn't really catch what you're
Isn't
saying.
Mas MAS the word more in the Spanish language?
Yeah.
Isn't it MAS?
Oh, you're gonna leave us with the suspense, man. He's not even gonna give us a payoff on that. We just spent like 30 seconds saying how you like.
You're just gonna M Night Shyamalan us like that. Like we have to create our own ending to the film.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna keep saying Ant Mass then. But we thank you for being here, guys. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share it with a friend. We really appreciate y'all staying up late with us. And we know
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys.
Bruja and Antmas are out of Canada, so that's pretty damn cool. Guys from Canada watching us talk about bears in Chicago. That's cool. I do want to get back to something you were saying, man, before I got to the comments. You had mentioned Poles and his retention of Eberflus. Like, if that pays off, how much justification and validation he's going to get from that, you know? So then I started thinking, like, obviously adding Caleb Williams was, MS says he's not Spanish, but yeah, that's how you say
Yeah,
it.
I figured that. I figured
Yeah.
he's from Canada, right?
Yeah, he's from Canada. They joined us on Canadian Thanksgiving on one show. That was pretty awesome. Bear down, eh? So, but my thought was Eberflus being retained by Poles. Caleb Williams was obviously the biggest addition in Poles' tenure so far as the GM, but is retaining Eberflus when you had guys like Belichick and Vrabel out there and Harbaugh guys to interview that you didn't even consider. You just kept your guy, and if that pays off, is that the biggest decision of his career, man? Like, is that like the nuts that he showed to have conviction on who he chose as his head coach and keeping him when better candidates were out there, and then
I still think that trading Justin Fields would and drafting
I feel
Caleb.
like that's ancillary to the Caleb Williams thing, to be honest.
I
Justin
think
Fields was
that's
traded because they were drafting Caleb Williams.
no, I know the trading
Yeah.
of Fields and the drafting of Caleb
Okay.
to years is a bigger deal than retaining Matt Eberflus. Even if Matt Eberflus works out, I still think that was a more important to the future of your franchise, like the success in your future. But I do believe this, man. If Matt Eberflus, if if Matt Eberflus were to win a Super Bowl by next season, because I think that's when Pete Poles wants to compete for one. If he were to do that, Poles is definitely way smarter than all of us. Because I would have thought.
I would have fired Eberflus. I
Well,
would have
no,
fired
and
Eberflus
even
for sure.
even with retaining him and him succeeding, I still have a thing in my head where it's like, yeah, I think he could be a guy that gets you to a couple of playoff seasons in a row and loses. You know what I mean? If this guy actually wins a Super Bowl, when the entire, I don't think you could have asked if you did a consensus between 100 Bears fans, all of them would have said fire this guy a
Yeah.
year ago. Like,
Yeah. I don't think there was anybody begging the Bears
there was
to
nobody
retain Matt
advocating. Yeah,
Eberflus
I didn't
after
have a whole
last
lot of
season.
people debating me like this is why he should stay. Like that just
Yeah,
didn't
no,
happen.
it
These
wasn't. It
guys,
wasn't
if
really
you're
out there. So
outside the
that's
city, if you're in Canada, outside the city of Chicago, nobody was here defending Matt Eberflus besides Ryan Poles.
yeah, and that's why I think that especially if they were to win a Super Bowl with Matt Eberflus as their head coach, Brandon, that would be the biggest, most important decision of Poles' career because Caleb Williams was a no-brainer to me. I mean, people wanted to ignore reality because they wanted to back Justin Fields for whatever
They
reason.
wanted the story to end well.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
wanted the Fields thing to work out. They wanted to
and I
happily ever
get that,
after.
but Caleb Williams was a no-brainer, Brandon. Matt Eberflus, that was a zig when everybody else was zagging, bro. Like that's just a huge decision that if that pays off, that's gonna be the feather in Poles' cap, man, in my mind.
But in the same sense, man, on the other end of the spectrum, I don't think if it doesn't work, I don't think it's like Poles burns with the ship. You know, I think if Eberflus doesn't work out, Poles still has the leverage to fire him and hire a new coach.
Yeah, and Notorious TBG points out that he wanted to keep Eberflus, that he won him over last season by turning the defense around after Allen Williams left and the team was falling apart. Now, that is jarring my memory of there were some fans that were saying that. I did hear that actually in terms of Matt Eberflus, the way he got this defense to perform and the team on him after
Well, you know
all the
where I
turmoil
stand.
they had last season. That was
You know where
impressive for sure.
you know where I stand on that, Dustin. I Notorious.
Well,
I
he
understand
hired
what you're
Allen
saying.
Williams, yeah.
I know. I understand what you're saying. He kept through a lot of adversity. He kept the team together, where they actually started to win games at the end of their season. But and he got his Montez Sweat. He told Bulls he needed some help on the edge. He got it, and he started calling plays himself. So yeah, you're right. He proved in a lot of ways that he can call a defense and that his defense is much better with a talented edge rusher. But Notorious, this guy vetted and hired these people. He always kind of seems to be, and I appreciate all your guys' comments. I'm not like I'm just giving you the other kind of different view on it, guys. Is he hired these guys that are having these issues and getting terminated or being asked to resign. Matt, so we can't only look at it like, man, he really
He was
overcame that
culpable
adversity.
in a way, in
Yeah.
in that way, for sure, no doubt. And Brujas says, and this made me laugh. He said, "Yeah, after 13 straight losses, I wanted him launched into the sun." Yeah, now that was my thing, man. Like we can't win in our division. We can't win games we're supposed to win. Giving up big leads in games that we should have
No,
won,
and
like
I'll be honest. I'll
those
be
were
honest,
things
man.
that were a problem to me.
He started to win games at the end of last season, and I thought for sure, man. Like what I was thinking in my head is because I wasn't like I didn't really want Eberflus back, but I also wasn't thinking like it's the end all be all if he is. But what I was thinking is that Packers game was like his end of his end of tenure audition. That's what I thought. Like I thought that last game of the season because he was beating bad teams. You know what I mean? Like he was
Yeah,
getting wins against
like this is
bad
a prove it
football
game.
teams,
Yeah.
and he beat the Lions. But for in Flus's entire tenure, the Bears have played the Lions really well. So I thought, like, man, this Packers team that Poles I know wants to show the fans he can beat. Like this is the game that's going to cost Poles or
And they
Flus's
fell
job.
flat on their fucking
Yeah, and they
faces. They
sucked.
were
Yeah.
awful. Yeah, yeah. And Bruja says after that Green Bay last game, he thought Flus
Yeah,
was done.
me too, bro.
I was
That's
convinced
exactly
he
what
was
I
done
thought.
too. But that's going back to why we were even talking about this, because you mentioned it and it sparked it in my brain, man. I think that's exactly why, if this thing works out with Matt Eberflus, Ryan, like you said, Ryan Poles is smarter than all of us, and that's the nutsiest decision he's made. I do have a question about this comment from, he's asking us, what is your guy? Sorry, there it is. What is your guys' take on the Twitter spats of the Bears and Commies fans? That's the Commanders getting in their feelings about the QBs. I'm not privy to that. Are you, Brandon? In terms of what he's referring to here? If not, maybe we can ask him for some more specifics if that's a question he wants answered. Because
Yeah, a
I'm
little
not.
more context. I think maybe is he talking about just like the whole showdown, the hype this game's gotten because of these QBs?
Yeah, or we drafted the right guy and you didn't, type of thing. Maybe I don't want to assume though. So I got Bruja thinks the locker room saved Eberflus. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, I
That's
mean that means Flus saved Flus. I mean
Yeah, because
Flus
he
is the
won the
guy.
locker room. Yeah,
He's the
yeah,
guy
yeah.
who's keeping that together for sure.
What are you looking for in this game, Brandon? What are you looking at as like the key to a Bears victory? Where do you think the weak spots are for the Commanders that the Bears can exploit? Any thoughts on this upcoming matchup and what we should be looking for in this game?
Well, yeah, the story hasn't changed, Dustin. We need to run the football. D'Andre Swift, they got to make sure that works. You just said they allow 4.9 yards per carry, so it's important that you run the football. But also, man, we've
Okay.
played a lot of rookie and sophomore quarterbacks. The story doesn't shouldn't change too much if you're the Bears approaching this game. Now we're playing a backup quarterback. Now Mariota's not the worst backup quarterback in the league, but these guys just don't play a whole lot of football, man. You know what I mean? They play in practice every week. It's not enough to be up to speed. Like you want to hit this guy hard and early. Get to Mariota. Get to Mariota. Mariota has been passed around this league, guys, because of one thing. He's shown really good athleticism in the NFL, and he's shown the ability to throw touchdowns. He turns the ball over. It almost always ends up being this guy's writing on the wall with whatever team it is he's on. He turns the ball over when he's given an
And
opportunity.
the Bears force turnovers like crazy. They are a hectic, hard defense to play against with that pressure that you're talking
And I
about.
and I
And
said
the
to
guys on the
Dustin,
back end that can
the
get after that
Bears
football.
the Bears have found their identity on defense, guys. They needed to do that just as much as they did on offense. Their identity on defense is with the secondary they have. If they apply even just a slightly above average amount of pressure over the course of this season, if they can get the quarterbacks a little bit more than the next team, like the secondary is going to take the ball away. If you can
Yeah.
get to a quarterback and make them decide things quickly, they're going to pay against this Bears team. It's such a beautiful relationship this defense has where like Montez Sweat is giving Montez Sweat and Javon Dexter are giving more abilities to the guy. They're multipliers. They're giving more abilities to the guys playing next to him, and that's giving the guys in the secondary, probably the best unit in the NFL, guys, the ability to just be aggressive all the time.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. And I agree. And I want to get into that, but we did ask Notorious to give us a little more context. And he said Bears fans are supposedly calling Jaden Daniels trash, and Commanders fans are saying Caleb is a gay nail painting diva. And he's saying haven't seen much of the former, seen a lot of the latter. I mean, we're seeing a lot of the latter with Bears fans that are,
I don't
still
I don't
butthurt about
I
the
don't get
decision.
I don't
That
get too
that's the
much
thing
into
that's
that
just out
stuff
there with
too.
Caleb, man. What's
Uh,
that?
Notorious. I don't get too much into that stuff, man. If Commanders want to come talking about Caleb's ability to play football, it's one thing, but I don't care about
Well,
the paint your nails stuff, man. I don't like whatever. If man, if I'll say this, Notorious, if you're a fan base in another city, and the best way you can, the best way you
this is
can pick
hilarious.
the best.
Bruhal says he's too old for Twitter. If he wants to have pointless arguments, he annoys his wife. She's a Lions fan. Great wife and mom, but a Lions fan. Bruhal, you're killing it tonight, man. That's hilarious.
God damn it, Dustin! I don't remember where I was going with that. If a fan base, if an opposing fan base, if the best thing they can say to insult your quarterback is he I'm not going to say a lot of what that guy. He paints his nails, whatever else he said, man. He paints his nails. That probably means there isn't too much wrong with this game, right?
Yeah, and maybe he's getting better grip on the laces. So
Well, you know what I
those
mean. Like
painted nails.
they're not coming out here like, man, he folds under pressure, or he throws a bunch of picks, or he fumbles all the time. Like they're saying he paints his nails, which means he's doing everything else pretty well. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's the same deal as it was when he's coming out in the draft, man. His ability is there, his talent is there. You can't argue with it. Not in my mind. People still are, and that's not just Commanders fans for this week. That's Bears fans still that jump into these chats that say Tyson Bagent is a better quarterback than Caleb Williams. It's all kind of nonsense. We were talking about the keys to the game, man. Brujal thinks the ability to run the ball with Swift. I could not agree here more. Like I said, the Commanders are giving up 4.9 yards per carry to the run. That's not good. It's 27th in the league. The Bears need to come out and establish the run and get it going, not just with DeAndre Swift, but with Roschon Johnson. But I think the key to this game will be DeAndre Swift having another great all-purpose game between receiving and rushing. It's going to be huge. MS says he would like to see 2 receivers with 100-yard games. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. I mean, that's I don't know if you want to pick who that would be, Brandon, but I think the passing game is going to be important in this game as well. But
I say DJ Moore and Roma Dunes. I like the guys on the outside against this Washington team.
yeah, for sure. And hopefully Keenan Allen is drawing some attention. I mean, it's just they play so beautifully off of each other in terms of their skill sets, those 3 receivers. So getting after this Washington Redskins defense that is better against the pass this year, guys, 12th in the league against for passing yards per game. So they're doing pretty well there. Notorious is worried about Brian Robinson. Our run defense, especially up the middle, is suspect. He's going to have his eyes on Edmonds all afternoon. I like that too. I think Edmonds has been an unsung hero in this defense, and I think that when he performs well, this defense is obviously just better, and
Well,
he will be huge in plugging those gaps against the run.
and now that he hasn't really been too involved this so far, guys, but now that they're playing a backup quarterback, they're probably going to utilize Eckler a lot too. That's a guy you're going to have to keep your eyes on, man.
Is
If
is it
not, if
Eckler? Is it Eckler? I just say Eckler.
Eckler, whatever.
Eckler.
But that's a player that I wouldn't forget about.
For sure, and Austin Eckler is still a good pass catcher out of the backfield, and brings a dynamic to that offense that might become more important with Marcus Mariota playing quarterback because he's not as good of a downfield thrower as Jaden Daniels. That's for sure. Notorious says,
Guys, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Another aspect of this Bears offense that I think is becoming subtly important and I think needs to continue, at least in some fashion, is Caleb's ability to scramble and actually run for a few first downs, even if it's just 2 or 3 in a game. That's starting to have a really big impact on this Bears team. It's opening up even more. And I do think that in this game against Washington, he's going to have to scramble a little bit.
I'll say this, man. I think a big part of this game is going to be red zone. I think it comes down to what we were talking about before, that complementary football where your defense gets the offense the ball in advantageous positions because the special teams got the defense in an advantageous position. The Bears are 24th in yards per game at 301.5. But what they are, top 5 in the league in, guys, that people kind of keep sleeping on, red zone scoring percentage. This is touchdowns, guys. 70.59% red zone scoring touchdown percentage. That's 3rd in the NFL. The Bears get the ball in the red zone a lot because of their defense, and they cash in on it. They score touchdowns. And check this out. Big for this game. Opponents' red zone scoring percentage for the Redskins, they're bad. For some reason, it's not letting me pull it up. I was about to go on a roll there, but they're not good at stopping the team in the red zone from scoring touchdowns. So I think that's going to be the key to this game, guys, is the Bears getting that ball into the red zone and scoring touchdowns, and the Redskins are not good at holding up against it. So the Bears have a huge advantage there for this game. It's the same advantage they had the last 2 weeks against the Panthers and the Jaguars that I was focused highly on, man.
Oh, and I don't know if you have in front of you, what is the Bears red zone defense ranking right now? It's got to be like top 5, right?
Bears red zone defense. Let's see here.
It's got to be in the top five, I would imagine, man. And Mariota, I'm again, guys. The Bears can't go on this because you had this big, the letdown here. We have all this hype with the showdown between Caleb and Jaden, but the Bears absolutely cannot take this game lightly because Mariota's playing quarterback. This is a football team that's pretty explosive on offense. You saw that last week when Mariota took over. It's not like the offense of this Washington team slowed down. I think they scored 40 plus points.
So the Bears' red zone scoring is number 5 in the league, Brandon. 43.75%. They're good at stopping the other team from scoring in the red zone touchdowns, and they're really good at scoring touchdowns themselves. And the Redskins are allowing 71.43% of red zone trips from their opponents to turn into touchdowns.
Oh, that was the first one you
That's
said was
29th in the league.
Oh yeah, I thought the first one you said was the Commanders. So it's like what?
No.
Yeah, it's the Bears.
The Bears are scoring at 70.59% of their trips to the red zone scoring touchdowns, and the Redskins are really bad.
No, what's the Bears? And that was the Bears' red zone defense. You just said 46.
Yep.
Yeah, that's damn good, man. That's really damn good.
Yes, it is, man. I think it's a big advantage for the Bears in this game. These guys in the chat are going off, man. I got smart scrambles and slides talking about your Caleb Williams take, man. I mean, Caleb knows when to take off, and he knows how to avoid getting hit. Amos says definitely need Torrey to keep pinning. Notorious has a hot take here, man. Tez revenge game, 3 sacks, including a strip sack. That's a bit lofty for my expectations, but their 2 left tackles are rookies. Yeah, Brandon Coleman is actually questionable. Half their offensive line is questionable. I'm sure they'll all play, but who knows, man? Could be a weak spot for the Commanders going into this game.
Yeah, and then Nice Man says some things here too. He says Washworth run the same system regardless of which QB is playing. Cliff won't change his system.
That's you don't want to, obviously, if you're an offensive coordinator. That's why they got Mariota to not have to.
Yeah, and it did come up last week, guys. Mariota did play really well in the same system. Cliff makes a system that's easy for a quarterback. That's why Jane Daniels has had some early success. Guys, as a rookie, probably has looked the best so far out of all the rookie quarterbacks. But in a system that's very quarterback friendly, never asks you to do too much, and exploit your strengths, guys. We talked about this. I think Jane Daniels was throwing to the right side of the field just over 70% of the time. So clearly, Cliff Kingsbury sees that he's more accurate when he's throwing to the comfortable side of the field. So that's what he's done with them. But
yeah, teams simplify the offense, like you're saying.
Teams catch on to this stuff, though, man.
Well, listen, Mariota was lucky to have the game that he was thrown into action as a backup turn into a starter was against the Panthers, and they're a bad defense, and he was able to take advantage of that. Now he's had a whole week of he's taking the starter reps. They're expecting him to be the starter. I'm sure of that. They're planning for that. I don't think he's going to have as much luck against the Bears, guys. This Bears defense is really good at keeping teams out of the end zone. They're really good at forcing turnovers. They're really good at getting pressure on the quarterback. Marcus Mariota his head's going to be spinning in this game, I think, man. I think the Bears are going to find ways to, like you said earlier, Brandon, get him to give them the ball.
Yeah, you just want to make this guy comfortable, man, for sure. That's really what it is. You just a backup quarterback probably isn't in their first start. Probably aren't super comfortable to begin with. You know what I mean?
Oh, Mariota's a vet, man. He's done it, for years. So I don't know that that's going to be an issue for him. I just don't know that he has the talent on that offense to provide the Commanders with what they get out of Jaden Daniels.
Well, what I love in this game, man, is what I'm hoping for is you would think it's a good thing, but I don't think it will be. I'm hoping Mariota, who did play against the Panthers, was thinking like, man, this is easy. Like, oh, this Kingsbury off. Like, this works so well. This is so easy. He threw a couple touchdowns. He looked really good. I hope he's approaching the Bears like, man, I got this. Like,
he's going to get discouraged pretty early, I think.
It's a different dynamic.
I don't think he's approaching it that way, Brandon. I mean, we can hope, but I think he's a smart guy at
I think he
the
is. I
very
think he's
least.
approaching it. I would imagine he's approaching it like, I got this.
Yeah, but I don't think he's taking this Bears defense lightly, is what I'm saying. One thing to remember with Mariota, man, is that he does have wheels. He can take off out of the pocket. He can make
Well,
things happen with his
that's
legs.
the part of the
Right.
game that they're preparing for, no matter who they played, for sure.
Yep. So I mean, the Bears got to maintain their pass rushing lane integrity in this game still, because that is one place where if the secondary could be shutting down everybody, but if he's running around out there, you could turn what should be, negative plays into first downs for the Commanders, and those are back-breaking type of plays. So it's one thing to watch out for with Mariota, in my mind. He was going through the game splits on Cliff from the first half to second half of the season as Stark. Jebediah Harper is in the building. What's up, man? Hit that like button. Thanks for joining us. Mariota is one of the most solid backups in the league. Bears D should give him hell, but no, I don't know what that means.
Hey, so I had a couple of head dead or lifelines, guys. This is something we're going to try to do Thursday night.
Headlines, deadlines, lifelines. Yes.
So for all of you who weren't here for last week, guys, I pitch a topic. Dustin tells me whether or not it's a headline, meaning it could be printed today. It's so true. It's a deadline, meaning there's no truth to it. It's complete and utter bullshit. Or a lifeline, meaning something could change the outcome, but you have to provide me what the lifeline is. What would change?
For the record, I just want to say this, Brandon. I was going to get to this segment after we got through our Bears predictions because I didn't want to like change the topic. So I want you to know that. But good a time as ever to get it done.
Yeah, well, and then some of them. So all right. So Brian Thomas will be the number one rookie pass catcher by the end of the year.
I mean, I don't want to pick headline or deadline because I think he's going to be a good receiver all year. I like Brian Thomas. I just think Malik Neighbors is the best rookie receiver, and he's going to continue to get his yards. So, no, I think Malik Neighbors will be that person.
Okay.
By the end of the year.
The Lions will. Some real bad lightning outside just now.
Yeah, I got the storming going on over here too, man.
The Lions will acquire Max Crosby or Myles Garrett.
Deadline, bro. They don't have what it takes to get those guys, and I don't know that either of those teams actually want to give up those players. Like those are hard players to give up. You need a lot to get them.
Hey guys, everybody in the chat, jump in on this, guys. Like I said, a headline means it's a very true statement. Ruha says lifeline.
Ruha says lifeline. I mean, I'll say this: a lifeline with a guy like Uche from the Patriots, or a guy like Zadarius Smith from the Browns, not Myles Garrett. A guy who's a lower level guy that they could get for less.
No, he's saying lifeline. I think he's saying lifeline to Brian Thomas, deadline to Lions.
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah. I mean, I guess, like I said, that I didn't want to pick head or dead for Brian Thomas, so I guess it would be lifeline. But Malik Neighbors will lead the league.
Neighbors is your lifeline.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson has played his very last snap in the NFL.
That's a headline, man. That's a headline. I don't see how you come back from this. Now let's say this just to say it. There's been guys that we've written off that we thought they couldn't come back from whatever they were dealing with, and they did. But with Deshaun Watson, like it's just like something was. It's like he had the Space Jam aliens come down and take his playing skill, like, and then he's just walking around like Larry Johnson, not knowing how to even walk anymore. Like Deshaun Watson was an athletic guy who could move in the pocket really well, had a great deep ball, was accurate, was good with decision. Like from Houston to Cleveland, I don't know what the fuck happened, bro. I don't.
He says, Bruja says headline. Probably an actual
headline. Yeah. Like you didn't reach very far for that one, Brandon. But like, yeah, he's definitely done, man. As far as
you say that though, man. But did you see the video that Adam Schefter had? The reel that's all over the place. How much he cost the Browns next year is the same amount. It's like $79 million or something. It's the same cap hit as this year, and the same cap hit in 2026, the following year. It's like
Oh,
79
dude,
some
I
million dollars.
fully believe
They,
that
they have to use him, man.
no, I fully believe that Stefanski has been like, dude, I need to start someone else. I need to, and I think ownership and management has pushed it down his throat. That what you're saying right now, where we're paying this guy this amount of money, we need this to work. We gave up a lot to get this guy, and we
Hey,
sent Baker Mayfield packing, and we brought him in. So like, and again, they saw what we saw in Houston, man, and Deshaun Watson was a hell of a quarterback in Houston. He's a shell of his former self, and it happened quickly, man. And I can't really remember this type of drop off like with a quarterback that quickly. That's still young, man. It doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, it's a headline, man. He's fucking done.
Jedediah Harper, hang in there because I think I got one that you're gonna like, buddy. So Jedediah, hang in there with us because I want to hear your answer on one of these coming up too.
Had more than a few drinks.
All four NFC North teams will make the playoffs. The betting odds right now are plus 1,200.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's those are pretty like impressive odds for all four teams of any division. Make it like plus
Yeah,
1,200 is as low as it's gonna get. Like I guarantee you, like the AFC North is like plus 2,600 or some crazy shit. So
probably
like,
more.
yeah. So it's probably more realistic than we want to give it credit for. But I gotta say, deadline, man, just because I don't see that ever happening in our lifetimes watching football, man. Four teams from the same division making the playoffs, that's just really hard to do. So going with the odds, man, I gotta say, deadline. I think one of these teams is getting left out.
Yeah, I think it did happen once in like 1970, but wasn't that the divisional merger? 1970?
I am not even aware of what you're talking about. So I mean, yeah, I don't know how many teams were even in the NFL at that time either. So I don't want to get into specifics of that, not knowing what I'm talking about.
All right, guys. So yeah, that was all four NFC North teams make the playoffs.
What do you
Next,
think, Brandon? You think all four NFC North teams make the playoffs? I think one's got to be on the outside looking in once we get to the end of the season. I think you got to finish third in this division to
I
feel
think, guys,
comfortable that you can make the playoffs.
I think they came so like the Packers came so close to coming back in that Vikings game,
Bruhal
and
says
I,
lifeline.
and I said that the Packers were going to start to roll a little bit, and the Vikings were a little exposed there at the end of that game when the Packers almost came back. I think the Vikings have a bad record in the NFC North.
Yeah, and I think we
I think
might
they end
see
up.
them
I
go
think
on
they end
a
up being 2-4 in the NFC North.
yeah, and I mean we might see them go on a bit of a losing streak here. They're already on a mini one with two losses in a row. I mean, I don't have off the top of my head who they play next week, but I could see them losing another one. Honestly, just based on like just the momentum of it, and they're reeling, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's just going to be really hard to get four teams out of the NFC North, man, or any one division. In my mind, I want the Bears to at least be third to have a shot at the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one is Kubiak. Clint Kubiak would make the Saints a better team today if he was the head coach.
Clint, I'll say headline because I think Dennis Allen is just a bad head football coach. I have not understood why he's had a job for the last couple of years. I didn't understand why he got the job in the first place. I guess his defenses play well, but Clint Kubiak, yes, anyone take anyone on that coaching staff and put him in the place of Dennis Allen in my mind, and I think they can be a better football team. So yeah, I'll say headline on that. What do you think? You asked that for a reason, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think they absolutely would. I like him, man. I think he's a man who treats people like I don't know. He's a guy to me that's going to be a head coach. The Saints would be smart to get ahead of that now. He, I think what you saw when Derek Carr was healthy in the first 2 weeks when they what was like 119 points or something.
Yeah, they came out on fire those first two games, man.
I think if Clint Kubiak's in control of a team, he can consistently do that. Would the defense probably lose a little bit when Dennis Allen with the departure of Dennis Allen? Probably, but could Clint Kubiak get the best out of that offense as a head coach of that team? I think so.
Bruja and Notorious are in agreement with us. They're both saying headline on that as well. And Notorious says the Saints D has been trash. Yeah, the Broncos just put up some points on them last time they stepped on the football field. So,
all right, Joe,
yeah, Dennis Allen sucks, guys. He is not a good head coach. He's going to lose his job for sure.
So, with like we just discussed, the loss of Derek Carr, they had forced to start Rattler, a rookie quarterback. They lost those games, guys. Since Tua's been out, the Dolphins have lost, I believe, every game, haven't they? With Tyler Huntley at quarterback.
Oh yeah, they just lost last week a game that they had a chance to win to the Colts. Yeah, no, they continue to lose. They are not good. That is hard to watch. You got guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and you just can't even get them the football.
So
They suck.
so clearly, Miami should have done a much better job of addressing the backup quarterback position this offseason, guys. Anthony Richardson went down for a few games. Jaden Daniels now. My question, or my topic, I should say, Bagent is a top 10 backup quarterback situation in the NFL.
I gotta say headline.
We talk about me and Dustin.
I gotta say headline.
Me and Dustin stress this a lot, guys. The backup quarterback position is going to become more relevant every season in the NFL. And it's something that you need to have at least a plan 1B. Like you've got to have a guy that can win some football games as your backup. You cannot go into a season with Tua as your starting quarterback with Skylar Thompson as your back. That just you're asking for like for you to lose for you to lose your starting quarterback and that be a just chalk it up, season's over. Like that can't be a thing in the NFL moving forward.
Well, it's the problem with that, Brandon, is that there's only so many quarterbacks to go around, and a few teams get really good backups, and other teams are left dumpster diving for their guys.
Or teams just believe they have the right guy and they just don't, man.
Well, I mean, you could have the right guy, but every team recognizes the propensity for injury in a game like football. So they all know that there's a chance that guy's not playing next week if something happens this week. I don't think there's enough good quarterbacks where everybody can secure themselves.
Because you just said headline to our Division II.
I don't think there's a lot of good quarterbacks in the NFL. I will say this: you're a guy that can win games. You're saying as your backup quarterback. I think the Washington Commanders we're playing them this week with the backup quarterback most likely, and I think they're a good example of you want a quarterback where, like they said earlier in the chat, guys, you don't have to change your offense when your starting quarterback goes down, so that you're not affecting every other player on your offense and having them to have to change how they're doing stuff.
We got 3 headlines in a row on Bagent is a top 10.
Tyson Bagent is a top 10 backup in the NFL, man.
Well,
there's not very many good situations. Let me finish making my point, please. The Commanders got rid of Sam Howell. Traded him off to the Seahawks.
And Seattle addressed their backup quarterback.
Yeah, but so did Washington. Washington knew that Sam Howell was not going to perform in the offense that they were creating for Jaden Daniels. They saw Marcus Mariota as being a better fit for that offense, and that's why they made that move. So that's what's really important to me is that you don't have to change what you're doing if your starting quarterback goes down, like in terms of principle. In terms of like how you schematically are going to approach.
But in regards to what you just talked about, man, the teams that we've seen that have lost their starting quarterback and still won a game are the teams that addressed their backup quarterback position over the offseason. The Miami's had Skylar Thompson on their roster for years, man. So this is what I'm saying. You had a team in the Packers who a week before the season traded to acquire Malik Willis, and they ended up having to use the guy for 2 games, and he won the football games. And then you have Mariota who came in with Jane Daniels was lost in the first quarter. Mariota comes in and he throws 2 or 3 touchdowns. Then you have Joe Flacco who won a game when Anthony Richardson went down.
Joe Flacco is the best quarterback on the Colts right now. He should be starting over Anthony Richardson when he's healthy.
Yeah, then you have these teams, and then you have Jameis Winston who gives the Browns at least some breath. Man, I mean, just a breath of fresh air. But then you have teams like
listen
Miami.
To what you're talking about. You're talking about Jameis Winston.
But then you have teams
like
Miami.
Would you rather have Tyson Bagent or Jameis Winston?
Then you have teams like Miami who didn't even go sign a Tannehill and just pretty much chalk their season up to the fact that Tua was no longer able to play. They knew
Miami is the most egregious, Brandon, because Tua has had multiple concussions. That has been a consistent issue.
it's important to have a guy that's not
big failure on their part.
It's important to have
They
a
should have
guy
expected
that isn't completely incompetent because guys,
that. Yeah,
Skylar Thompson shouldn't even be in the NFL. He shouldn't be playing
look at what you
football
give
games.
up. Look at what you give up to get a Tyreek Hill and what you're paying him, and you just extended Jalen Waddle, and you have these guys that are uber talented on your team, but you have no way to fucking use them. And you knew your quarterback has a propensity to go down with head injuries, and you that's a huge failure. You have to have someone that can at least put the ball in play for these guys to have a chance to make an impact on the game.
And you had
So I agree with you
Tannehill,
on that,
and
Brad.
you've had Tannehill out there. Like you didn't do anything. So how do you
It's
feel
a
about
headline, man.
so if Caleb Williams goes out, let's say Caleb Williams goes out early and this guy, like, guys, no injury to Caleb Williams. I don't want to speak this in existence, but do you want to address this? Caleb Williams went down early in this game and missed these 3 games. Arizona, New England, majority of Washington. Can Bajent win those 3 football games, guys?
Well, it's not just on Bajan to win the games, luckily for us,
Nobody's
because
got really he's got a lot of talent around him.
got a lot of talent around him on the offense, got a really good defense to support him and get him a short field. So, yeah, they can definitely win those games with Tyson Bajan as their quarterback, in my opinion. And now, when I was asking you earlier, like, again, look at who you're talking about. You're talking about James. Like, would you rather have Tyson Bajan or Jameis Winston, Brandon?
Bro, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I'd rather have Tyson Bajan personally. Jameis Winston, we've seen it.
Winston's really comfortable airing the ball out, man. He throws a lot of turnovers, but like he moves the chains, man. I don't know. That's a difficult one, man, because Jameis Winston
gives up the football to the other team.
Yeah, he's also a guy though who you always kind of felt like was right on the edge of being a good player, but
notorious as Mike McDaniel's lost in the white sauce, cocaine. It's a hell of a drug.
We have 3 headlines from the chat.
Headline, yeah.
You yourself said headline about Bajan being.
What do you say? What do you say?
Top 10.
Yeah, top 10 backup.
He's
There's
probably
not a lot of good.
He's up there, man. He's between like 8 and 12, probably. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So it's a lifeline for you then?
No, I think it's a headline. I think he is. I think the Bears are comfortable with him, man. I think he's.
Bruja thinks that if Bajan was playing in these next 3 games, that we would win 2 out of the 3.
That would be great. If Bajan went 2-1, yeah, that'd be great.
That's good enough.
All right. My last one is the Steelers with the change at quarterback are a team that could be in the Super Bowl.
Oh, well, you say could, man. I mean, they're 5-2. They have a great defense. They have the best coach in football at this point.
With Justin Fields in there, I would not have said yes to this.
No, but I don't know that I would say yes to it with either one of them. So that's where I have my hesitance to answer this, because I like, we've talked about it before, I like the Russell Wilson signing for the Steelers, and I think that he brings a dimension to his offense that they were missing when they had Justin Fields out there. So obviously, in my mind, they're going to be better with Russell Wilson, but I don't know that they're a good enough team to go to a Super Bowl. If you said AFC Championship, man, I'll say headline hesitantly, but I'll say it's a lifeline. The Steelers are going to compete with everybody that they play just because of their defense. Now you throw in Russell Wilson. Sean wanted to say he's throwing up 50-50 balls. I mean, you still have to defend it. It still scares the defense.
I've seen that.
Opens up the run game and clears out the box. Like, it makes a huge difference to this offense, and it's a skill to throw those balls. And to just know, to have the smarts to know, I should give George Pickens a fucking chance to make a play down the field.
Yeah, the awareness that Fields didn't have. Bruja, the statement, the topic was the Steelers are
after the quarterback change to Russell Wilson.
After the benching of Justin Fields and the starting of Russell Wilson, the Steelers are a good enough team to make it to a Super Bowl.
They could make a Super Bowl, is what you said. And I'll just say that I don't see the Steelers as a Super Bowl team. I did pick them as a playoff team going into the season. So I think they are competitive and will compete with everybody, but I'll have to say deadline on them being a Super Bowl team. That's what I'll have to say.
Okay, I do. Another one that just kind of popped in my head. After the injuries after at least a 4-week injury to Mike Evans and a season-ending injury to Chris Godwin, the Buccaneers' season is over.
Headline, deadline, or lifeline on that? I won't say over, man, because I do believe that Baker Mayfield is a stud and he's a scrappy dude and he's going to keep his team, focused. They're not going to wallow in their sorrows. And Todd Bowles is a pretty solid coach. I mean, so like they have good discipline. They have a winning culture there. I think they will stay focused. And as Notorious TBG has been pointing out throughout this entire chat, the NFC South is just trash. The Falcons are the best team in that division, and they aren't very good. They're not consistent. So, yeah, I think that I don't think that means that they're done.
Oh, by the way, Brewhouse says deadline. Russ can't stay healthy. That is our concern, guys, for Russell Wilson. Do the Bears get the 4th round? Last week, by the way, guys.
Notorious TBG says headline, Bowles is getting fired.
He's saying that the Bucs season is a wrap. Guys, I do like Jalen McMillan, but he is a rookie. He's not a player that you want to. It's not a guy you want being your number one. So yeah, I think they're in a little bit of trouble over there for sure, man.
Guys, we appreciate your participation in this. You're getting these answers out pretty quickly. We like the engagement, man. Keep them coming.
Awesome. It's awesome for sure.
Yeah, it is. It is. So no, I'll say on that one, I forgot what we were talking about.
The Buccaneers season is over.
Yeah. I don't think that their season's over. I'll say deadline on that, Brando. I'll say deadline on that. See, I did notice this. Notorious. He says specifically for that shit he did with Godwin, absolute buffoonery. I was flipping back and forth between the Chargers Cardinals game and that game because that game was kind of out of reach. The Bucs did crawl back in it, but I happened to flip back right when Godwin was injured, and I just see Todd Bowles like smiling in this weird fucking way, and I don't know. And everyone else is in the stadium like. The stadium is completely dead silent. Everyone's like solemn and it's a sad thing. Everyone's worried about Godwin. And Bowles was just fucking smiling all strangely. It threw me off. Like, what was that? What specifically did he do, Notorious? Because I missed that. I missed the injury. And I just saw like the look on Todd Bowles' face was like he just played a fucking trick on someone or something.
I think that game was in the bag and he had Godwin on the field. That game was over, dude. I mean,
no, they were getting back into that game. That game was not over, man. The Bucs
didn't they lose by 2 scores?
I think they lost by 10 points, man. But like the Bucs were down big and started getting back into the game.
Yeah, but they got
he says, I saw him smiling too.
Did you guys see?
It was just weird to me. I agree with you,
guys. Everybody in this chat.
Nobody else seemed to notice it that I was talking to either.
You guys in this chat have been really fucking awesome tonight.
You're the stars of the show for sure. For sure. I mean, we're just here kind of carrying.
Did you guys see Rodgers did that thing he's been doing his whole career? He tried to catch Pittsburgh with 12 men on the field.
And Mike Tomlin
called the timeout. And then he looks at him and he tips his head to him and Rodgers goes and just nods to him.
Yeah, that was a really cool interaction. Yeah.
Mike Tomlin is such a cool guy, man. He really is. He's one of my
Mike Tomlin is the shit. And so, like, yeah, that's back to your question that you asked, man. The Steelers are always going to be competitive as long as he's their head coach, and I'll always worry about them. I just don't see them being a Super Bowl team. And then Notorious says the game was over. The team had already missed the 2-point conversion, didn't get the second onside. At the time of the injury, they had a 0.1% chance of winning. I mean,
yeah, it was pretty wrapped up, man. They had gotten that.
They lost by 10, man. If I'm a head coach, I got my guys out there trying to win that game.
They were down by. I think they were down by 2 touchdowns and a field goal, by 17 points, and they scored their touchdown to bring it within 10, with like 5 minutes remaining in the game. It was way too late, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
here it is. Notorious put up here. 90 seconds left, and they had no timeouts.
I don't remember exactly how much time. I'll have to take your word for it, Notorious. All I know is if I'm a head coach and I feel like I got a chance to win, my guys are going to be out there. I mean, that's part of football, dude. People get hurt. But the way his face was, the face he had.
Did you see what Godwin said on the? Out of there. See what Godwin said on the cart on the way out.
Hey, we got a new guy in the chat, Mr. Shorty Sciordi.
Shorty.
Thanks for joining us, man. You're a new guy. I haven't seen you before.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man.
He called him Shorty. See, okay. So hit that like button, subscribe, man. Please come back next week.
So, Mr. Shorty, let us know Headline, deadline, or lifeline, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers season is over after the injuries to Mike Evans. It is shorty after the injuries to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
BCP represent.
You got one for me, Dustin? Last time you were able to think of one, you were able to on the spot
I
it.
just want to point out that Bruja, after we were shouting out the chat, said, "Stop it! I'm blushing." And Bruja's on fire tonight. He's our comedic relief for the show. We're kind of slacking on the comedy.
He
tonight.
says over. Shorty says season's over.
Season's over. I mean, I just don't think it's over in that NFC South, man.
Guys,
That NFC South
they
sucks.
did draft a kid out of Michigan that played alongside Roma Dunze and Polk. His name is Jalen McMillan, and he's
Washington, out of Washington, yeah.
out of Washington. Really quality player, man. So we'll see what happens with him. I'm sure if you're in fantasy, guys, and you need a waiver pickup, if Jalen McMillan's still out there, if Cedric Tillman's still out there, if Juwan Jennings is still out, this is a big waiver week after all the injuries in the NFL, man. Think about dude. You had Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, you had Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. You now got Mike
And Malik
Evans.
Neighbors was down for
You
a
have
while. I had
no,
them all on the fucking team.
but you have a lot of receiver duos this year. Like the whole like the 1-2 punch are both getting injured on teams.
Yeah, it seems like
That's
a
what
trend.
I'm trying to tell you guys. It's really tough to overcome this stuff. Like in defense of Brock Purdy,
Mr. Shorty is a co-host on Bears Country Productions podcast. Whoa, shit, awesome!
Check
Thanks
that out, Shorty.
Yeah,
I'll
thanks for
check out
joining us.
Bears Country
Yeah, you
Productions.
subscribe to ours, we'll subscribe to yours.
Yeah, for sure. I will definitely check it out, man.
But I guess I can come up with one. I mean, last week I came up with the Doug Peterson one, and he still has a job. We both said headline he's going to get fired.
It's insane.
They won that game. Now we'll see what happens this week. I think they're going to get their asses whipped by the Packers probably. So
this will be the writing on the wall.
Yeah, we hope so, because I can't stand Doug Peterson. But Antonio Pierce will make it through this current season as the Raiders head coach. Headline, deadline, lifeline.
Deadline. Oakland's one of those teams, man. That's
Oakland. Who's Oakland?
Sorry, Las Vegas is one of those teams that's willing to get rid of a coach whenever, as long as it seems fitting. You know what I mean? Like these guys have fired coaches in the middle of seasons numerous times. So
you do see them firing Antonio Pierce before the season?
They fired Josh McDaniels midseason. They fired John Gruden midseason. Obviously, John Gruden had a little bit more validity behind it.
That was kind of fucked up. I actually went to Las Vegas. It was my brother and my brother and I have a birthday.
Yeah, you saw the Bears play the Raiders.
Yeah, one day apart, and so we went to Vegas and watched that game that weekend. And then I got off the plane coming back to Chicago and got the notifications that John Gruden was fired because he was calling people words he shouldn't have been calling people in emails. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. This is something I wanted to talk about here. Notorious says, and by the way, that Las Vegas stadium is fucking insane. You can walk to it right from the strip. It's crazy. It's a beautiful.
Yeah, I drove past it a few times. Never been in it.
Yeah, it's nice. You should go check it out. He says, I got a fantasy question. Notorious. Needed running back depth. Have Dak, Tua, and Geno and Bears and Lions defense. Do I drop a QB or defense? And if so, who for? Ray Davis?
It depends on. You read that way too fast, man.
Okay, he needed running back depth. He has multiple quarterbacks, Dak, Tua, and Geno. Tua, you should not have on your team anymore at all, unless he's on your IR, not taking up a roster spot. Bears and Lions defense. Do I drop it? Definitely drop a defense. Me personally, guys, I stream my defenses. I'll fucking drop one week to pick up the matchup. I go on the matchups. I don't hold on to two defenses. Definitely not. I would never hold on to two defenses to taking up a roster spot. I want to play the matchups week to week, and I'll drop a defense quick.
Drop a defense, especially for a running back. Notorious. Drop a defense to get yourself a running back for sure. And whatever defense you keep, make sure it's the one with a better matchup this week. like literally this
Yeah,
week.
for sure. Yeah. The Bears.
I keep Minnesota's defense, but they have 5 weeks with like 15 plus points, man.
Notorious isn't going to want to drop
They're-
the Bears defense, and the Lions definitely have a better matchup. They're playing Will Levis's broke ass. They're going to get some turnovers, probably a touchdown playing against that Titans team and Will Levis. So you want to start the Lions defense. If you don't want to drop the Bears defense, man, get rid of one of the quarterbacks. And yeah, Ray Davis is a solid option. I mean, obviously, if Cook is healthy, you're
Wait,
not
I
going
don't
to
know.
see that.
I don't know if I agree. I would still start the Bears defense this week over the Lions, man.
If you're playing the matchups, you wouldn't. That's all
Lions
I'm
are
saying.
not going to score a touchdown on defense. They're just not that team, man. Like they don't
Against the Titans, everybody can be that team, bro. Will
without
Levis
Aiden
is a
Hutchinson.
giver.
I don't know, man. I
Will
think
Levis is a giver. He's a
yeah, but
very
I'll say this,
giving
man. I think
quarterback.
Mason Rudolph is capable of not turning the ball over, bro.
Shorty, thank you for subscribing, dude. Thank you for checking in. Bear down, dude. Have a great night. What QB do I drop? I mean, you just said that Tua's on your IR,
Thanks,
so
Shorty.
like
Thanks for coming out, Shorty. Thanks for hanging out with us for sure, man. Have a good night, bro.
You said Tua's on your IR, so he's not taking up a roster spot for you. But if he is, drop Tua. And if he's not, and you need to drop a quarterback, I would drop Geno Smith. You keep Dak, in my opinion. And Geno Smith,
Dustin,
you could probably pick him back up on the waiver wire later.
Dustin, I don't think Will Levis is playing.
Is he done?
Careful with that Lions defense. I don't think Will Levis is playing this game.
Is he done? Is he like
he was listed as doubtful a day ago. He missed last week. He didn't play last.
Rudolph is a better quarterback. Rudolph is a better quarterback
He
than
didn't
Will
play
Levis.
last week, man.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, it's possible Rudolph plays, and if he does, then yeah, it's a little different. But still, that Titans offense is trash. But, I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah, now DeAndre Hopkins
pick what you want to do, man. Those are tough decisions, honestly.
Dude, think about this. Mason Rudolph, the better quarterback on that Tennessee team, clearly.
Mason Rudolph is the better quarterback. Joe Flacco was the better quarterback on the Colts.
Yeah, but hold on. He starts without the week that DeAndre Hopkins is gone. And then Jameis Winston will make his first start without Amari Cooper. With Amari Cooper gone. Like, yeah. How badly did the timing on that work out?
I mean, listen, I would never hold on to
these teams should have both these teams, Deshaun Watson and Will Levis, were the two most fucking benchable quarterbacks in the NFL. These guys should have been benched, both of them, weeks ago.
TVG says that was my exact thought process. I dropped Geno. Just needed to hear you guys confirm it. Okay. All right. I'm glad we talked through that together, Notorious, and I'm glad you're feeling confident. And if it doesn't work out for you, don't blame me next week. I'm sorry. I hate giving fantasy advice, and then it backfires. I try to.
You dropped Geno or you dropped Tua?
Tua he has on his IR, so he's not taking up a roster spot. So he had to drop Geno. But yeah, man, those quarterbacks suck. And the Titans having a plan to go into the season with Will Levis, yeah, that was atrocious. That was atrocious, man. And picking up Rudolph, that was smart because I think he's actually a better quarterback than the guy who's starting in front of him. And I think his team has a better chance of winning with him on the field.
And where's Kenny Pickett? Did he go to the Broncos or did he go to Tennessee too?
Kenny Pickett's on the Eagles.
Is he?
Yeah, he's the backup for the Eagles.
Didn't the Titans get another QB on top of Mason Rudolph? I thought they acquired somebody else, man.
They stacked them both together and put on a big trench coat on top of Mason Rudolph. I'm sorry. Jebediah. I had an uncle named
fucking stupid, man.
I'm sorry. This is our backup quarterback. He's a real man. Will Levis only had a job because of Big Mayo. He said, just subscribe for my BCP account too. Thank you, Bears Country Productions. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
that's Mr. Shorty.
Shout out to you. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll check BCP. You out. And we'll do the same.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
And Notorious says he can't drop the Bears D. I get you. The Bears D has been really good this year. And I mean,
No,
I guess
they're gonna no, don't drop. They're gonna keep taking the ball away, man.
oh,
Don't
he
drop.
didn't drop him. He dropped Geno Smith. I just think you can replace a guy like Geno Smith with another quarterback at about the
And
same level. Those guys
Russell
are.
Wilson's gonna have he's gonna have
Yeah,
250
exactly.
yards and 2 touchdowns.
You throw Drake May out there, and he's throwing for multiple touchdowns, depending on the matchup.
Because we
Again,
talked about this last week, man. Drake May has the green light, bro. Like that
yeah,
man.
and he does. When he's playing a bad defense, I'd feel comfortable starting him. So like you play the matchups, you can the same way I'm talking about playing the matchups with the defense. You can, and especially if it's a backup. I mean, Dak Prescott, I think is gonna have more good games than bad. So you got a pretty solid starter there. So
All
I
right,
think you
man. I
did
want to
right.
hear. your what's your score here. We didn't really dive
I
too.
want you to go first.
We didn't dive too deep in. Well, I said I was already asked.
We did not get into our predictions. No.
We didn't dive too deep into the Bears game, but that's all right, man. It was a good show. I had fun tonight. Chat was
The
awesome.
chat kind of dictated where we went, man, and we talked about.
Chat was awesome tonight, man.
We talked very much Bears and just kind of philosophy and like just like bigger ideas about this Bears team that I think are important too. So I'm glad we got into those things.
Yeah. So I said on CSP, I think this game's 24-16, but I thought Jaden Daniels was going to play. I was when this injury first occurred, I was under the understanding that like it wasn't a big deal. Like I think they said he even came back out onto the field on
after the injury initially happened, he stayed on the field to finish that drive. Yeah,
and so like I thought he was gonna play for sure. So now that he's not, I'm saying
Jebediah is crazy.
I'm saying,
look at what he said. I love this guy. He said, "Did you see what he said? Is your content about football or outdoor survival? How to pack a bear bag? Difference between bear spray and bug spray. Like if you're bear country." He's crazy. We like you, Jebediah. Come back, man. Come back. And we like you, Bears country, and we're gonna check you out too. But sorry, Brandon, go on. I derailed you a little bit there.
Yeah, I don't even remember where I was, man.
You were talking about not expecting to not see Jaden Daniels in terms of what your prediction was.
Oh no, so my initial score prediction was 24-16 with Jaden Daniels being in the game. I really do think this Bears team's lined up like this is prime, especially after a bye week, man. They're primed to beat up on this team. I think the Bears win 28-16. Actually, no, I'm gonna say 28-13. I'm gonna say
28-13. Okay, so Notorious kind of is simpatico here in terms of what you're thinking. 27-23 if Jaden plays, 34-10 if it's Mariota. Oh man, it's tough to project a game like when you're doing two scores for if this guy plays or if he doesn't play. I mean, I think the Bears are the better football team. I think the Bears defense, as will be the case most weeks, is the best unit on the football field for this game. And I think that's what's going to ring true for the Bears. I think the Bears' ability to score in the red zone and take advantage of those opportunities and the Redskins' inability to stop teams, it's going to play huge in this game. And I think that's going to lead to another double-digit win, man. I do. I'm kind of where you're at, man. 27-10 Bears. I don't expect Jaden Daniels to play. If Jaden Daniels were to play, he's probably good for a touchdown, 27-17 in my mind.
Yeah, I said
the Bears
20. I brought the Bears
defense.
score down. With Jaden Daniels, I brought the Bears score down because I think the time of possession will change. So I said
that's a fair point.
I said the Bears have 24 points and the Commanders have 16. Once I found out it was more likely Mariota, I said 28-13.
And that's kind of where Bruja is at too. He said with Daniels 21-17, with Mariota 28-12. So that's that same exact thought process. It seems like where they're able to move the chains a little bit.
I don't want to get it twisted either, guys. I think I changed the Commander's score by a field goal only because I don't think that a veteran backup is much different than a rookie playing this Bears defense. Like, you know what I mean? A less talented veteran backup versus a more talented rookie quarterback playing this Bears defense is not good either way.
The biggest difference, and I I mentioned that Mariota does have wheels, and you got to look out for that. The difference between Jaden Daniels' wheels and Mariota's wheels is a huge difference, and that is one place he could have potentially exploited this Bears defense. That's not going to be so much the case with Mariota. I think with Mariota in this game, the Bears are going to force a couple turnovers, man. I think the Bears will come out to establish the run, and I think it will be successful against a team that's hurting a little bit on defense.
And
I
I
mean,
and we haven't talked about this at
I'm
all.
gonna see how the Bears lose this game.
I don't want to forget it because he was during Caleb's interview. He was also asked a lot about living in Maryland and living in DC, and
He don't give a shit.
he's really because he just kept saying, I have a lot of family, I have a lot of friends, I have a lot of ties. He wants to go show out. I mean,
I don't know. I don't think it matters to him.
We talked about this, man. This is Kingsbury, and this is dude. Do you know how many of Caleb's people are gonna have a seat at that game? He's gonna have 25 people at that game. I can almost guarantee that, man. Like,
oh, he already said he used all of his tickets. He's gonna have a big
and he's gonna
contingent
buy
come out
that,
to
and he's
see him.
gonna pay for the rest of them. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's important to him to, like you said, show out in front of Kingsbury, because he's not. Even if he beats Cliff Kingsbury, it's still kind of a compliment, isn't it? Like, hey man, you helped
Thanks
me
for
be
helping me
this.
get here.
Yeah, you helped me be this, be here, and be this. Yeah. So like,
I mean, Caleb was. If you're going to take Caleb at his word, he was asked directly, going back home, does that matter to you? Playing potentially in the one quarterback versus the two quarterback matchup, does that matter to you? And he had a very quick answer. He said, no, it don't matter. I'm not focused on that. My job is to win games on Sunday.
His answer was Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. My job is to win football games.
Yep. So like I do think obviously Caleb is a guy who wants to be the best. It matters to him, like, where is he going to fall in history as a quarterback in the NFL? I think that clearly matters to him. So he's probably given that answer, and underneath he's got a big fire inside to perform really well. But I do think that he has a good professionalism about him, where he is going to focus on the details of this game, and he is going to treat it like any other game. But when he wins, when he throws a touchdown, he's going to celebrate hard. So I guess I can agree with you, but also say that I think it's great that our rookie quarterback going into his 7th game is so goddamn focused. I think that's just so huge for his development.
I think he's gonna throw touchdowns, man. That's what I think he's gonna do in this game. He's gonna throw touchdowns. I could see him throwing 3 touchdowns in this game. Like, I was completely wrong, man. So when I come to this season, when they were projecting his statistics and people were saying 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, I thought the yards would be the most achievable thing for Caleb Williams. I thought he could throw like 4,300 yards the way he just slings the ball, but he collects yards in every way, right? Like, he can dump it off, check down. He plays that middle of the field game. He can go downfield. Like, I thought yards was going to be no problem and touchdowns was going to be tough. When people said 30, I was like 25 at most. But he's kind of doing the opposite. He's now at a game with 3 touchdowns and a game with 4 touchdowns, right?
Well, yeah, and that goes back, yes, man, and that goes back to what I was talking about with their red zone scoring percentage. Shane Waldron on 4th down and in the red zone, he is drawing up very good plays, very well-designed plays that are getting good open reads for Caleb, and the defense is putting them in position where they're dealing with some short fields, man. So yeah, that's lending itself to Caleb getting the ball in the end zone.
Even that rushing touchdown with that bullshit blocking call, that chop block.
Yeah.
The call that Flus said he's never seen in his career.
Yeah.
That touchdown, I mean, just another successful play in the red zone. I think they ended up even scoring a touchdown on that drive.
No, they still scored. Yeah. So I mean, like that's again, I think that will come down to be like the biggest thing in this game is, can the Bears score touchdowns, continue the streak of scoring touchdowns when they get in the red zone? And yeah, I think that their ability to do so has really lent itself to what you're talking about, man, where Caleb is able to rack up these touchdowns and do it with short fields. So the yards just aren't really there. But like either way, it's winning football. So works for me, man. Works for me. If he doesn't break the 4,000-yard mark and still we don't have a Bears quarterback that's broken that mark, I don't care if he has 30 touchdowns and the Bears are 11-6 and in the playoffs, man.
Well,
However we get there is how we get
and
there.
guys, and I'm going to say this confidently: if Caleb Williams doesn't achieve 4,000 yards in his rookie season, he will achieve 4,000 yards. Like
Next
next,
year, next
probably
season,
next
probably.
season
Yeah,
for sure. Like this is a kid that's
he'll
not
probably
just
do
going
it
to get.
pretty easily.
It's a kid that's not just going to get better over the course of his rookie year. He's going to keep getting better and better and better and better.
Yeah,
For
it's a lot to look forward to as a Bears fan, man. So we got our predictions in. We did our kind of our breakdown of the game, what we think is going to be important. Like you said, didn't get into it as much as we wanted to, but the chat really had a lot of interesting perspectives that we wanted to dive into and brought out some of our own perspectives. So I think that went really well, man. And I just think overall, like we're feeling pretty good about this Bears team. We don't want to dwell on who they've played. We want to dwell on how they're performing. We want to focus on that part
well, and
because
most
that's what
importantly,
they can
guys,
control, Brandon, like you've mentioned before.
we've said it 2 or 3 times tonight, guys. Teams teams with new pieces and new coaches. If you're seeing this all over the NFL, these teams have, it took the Broncos with Bo Nix and Sean Payton. It took a little while. Now they're looking like a pretty good team. The Commanders kind of hit the ground running, but Drake May is now in football games and he's looking pretty good. He's looking like he'll win a couple more games than the
But the
Patriots.
Patriots still suck.
Yeah, but he does look like they might win a game or two more than they were gonna win. It does look that way to me, man. Like
Their offense looks better, that's for sure, than
they
it
have
did
a
with
chance
Jacoby
of.
Brissett. Yeah.
So you're seeing this, but there's the difference: is the Patriots are still losing football games with
Bears are winning.
the Bears are like developing their players, like Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, because Roma Dunze, you could see from week one, needed a lot of development, man. He was behind, I think, honestly. And they're winning football games while they're progressing this offense and developing these young guys. They're winning football games. And that's a lot to ask for from a coaching staff. And that's why I said I'm sure Ryan Poles is looking at this right now. Like he's really proud of what these guys are doing, man.
For sure, man. And it comes down to that keeping them in games that they shouldn't have been in, probably like in that Tennessee game. But like the defense will carry the day for this Bears team all season, I believe. And I think even if Caleb has a rough game this Sunday, which it's totally in the realm of possibility, the Bears can and will still win this game because their defense will create turnovers. They will create negative plays for the Washington Commanders offense.
They'll get some takeaways for sure.
Yeah, man. So like I still have confidence. Even if you're going to tell me that Caleb Williams is going to have a bad day, I still have confidence that the Bears will win this game just because that defense is the best unit on the field. So that's going to be huge for this team all year. And then, like we said before, like as the offense continues to progress, they'll start carrying the defense in some spots. So just the balance on this team and it's impressive and it's
you can
fun to see
already
what it's going to turn into.
You can already see that what we thought was almost unsustainable on defense, the percentage of takeaways per game, like I think it was like 3 takeaways per game. You thought it was unsustainable, but now the Bears are an offense that's not getting 3 and out and 3 and out and 3 and out like we've watched for the last 2 years. You know what I mean? So now it's like this defense is getting better, man, and it looks.
Yeah, they're not on the field all the time.
It looks
Yeah.
far more sustainable now. It looks like now you see the 3 takeaways and you're like, yeah, this is the thing that's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Starting to feel that way about these guys, man.
Put Kyler in your prayers so his hamstring heals up quicker. Yeah, I hear you on that, Notorious. I just to kind of cap off what you were just saying, Brandon. Brewhall brought up the PTSD earlier that we have as Bears fans. I mean, I think it might be time to start getting past that and expect something different from this team, man. I really do feel that way. So
absolutely.
Yeah, man. So let's keep working on that. We'll keep working through our trauma together as Bears fans. We have our group meeting again next week, Thursday, the bare minimum. This Monday we'll have the Hollis Hall hangover where we can hopefully be celebrating another Bears win. Okay. So join us on Monday. Join Sean and Kyle on Wednesday following, and us on Thursdays, guys. We'll try to keep the content coming for you guys, and we really love it when you guys are as active as you were tonight in the chat, man. It just makes everything flow so much better, and makes it easier, guys. So, like I said, y'all are the superstars at tonight's show, so we appreciate you. And obviously for Brisker and his brain swelling to
Thank you sincerely from the bottom of our hearts, man. For mine, for sure. Thank you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for being interactive. It really, really, really makes the show, guys, much easier on us. Like, we're not just saying this to get you to hit those likes and subscribes. It makes the show flow so much better when you guys are involved.
Brujo says, let's be optimistic. Yeah. Let's get past that trauma. Great session. Thank you. Yep. Just be on time for next week's session, Brujo. Yeah. We appreciate you, boss.
Yeah. And stay and over the course of the week, guys, stay strong. Make sure you have willpower.
Jebediah echoing the same thing. Good time to be a Bears fan. Fun time, guys. Yeah, man. Yeah. And again, I'm not gonna put it. I will be the person losing my shit if the Bears come out and lay a fucking egg. So
no, we're finally validated in being optimistic for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But we also are validated in being upset if they don't give us what we expect them to give us.
They're gonna come out.
That's part of being a fan.
They're gonna come out and beat this team up.
They are. So let's look forward to that on Sunday, guys. Brandon, anything else before we
No, man, it's bedtime.
It's been bedtime. It's 1:45 in the morning. Guys, again, thanks for joining us. Everybody have a great rest of your morning and have a great day tomorrow. And don't forget to register to vote. Notoria says I am registered and I will be out there.
I did as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that is important. No matter who you're voting for. I know Notoria said vote Trump earlier. No matter who you're voting for whatever reasons, it is important to our democracy if we actually participate in it. That's the whole point. So yeah, guys, get out there and do it. All right. Bear down, guys. Have a great weekend. And thanks. We'll see you again on Monday.
Bear down, guys. Thanks.